Behind me, you see parts of the old walled city of London. And these are now preserved under glass in the city of London, which is the square mile where all finance happens, where I used to work. And some of these ruins were actually unearthed after they were hit in World War II by some of the German bombs. Didn't even know they were still here. These go way back, obviously, some over 1,000 years. And it's what used to separate kind of the walled city where they would lock up at night versus the rest of the mayhem that would kind of go on around here. And I'm actually at Bishopsgate, which was one of the gates of the city. I don't know if they used to let bishops in or what the deal was, but it's right here. It's known for kind of the financial district, and you can see the old gherkin in the back. So the tours of London continue here at London Real. On the show this week is a gentleman by the name of Beardyman. He is a London musician and a former beatbox champion, although he'll be the first one to tell you that he's over the beatboxing. He's moved on. His music has evolved with the aid of some serious technology. And he basically can do these one-man shows by only using his voice. And you can catch a fantastic YouTube video of his TED Talk where he creates sound only by using his voice, his technology, his looping, and he can create entire tracks. He does one-man shows that are part comedy, part improv, part simulated rave, part new music. I mean, he can do everything from mashups to covers, and you know, he's constantly trying to evolve as an individual. And as I said in the very beginning of the show, he seems like a restless soul, someone who, if he's not being challenged, he's getting bored. And I don't think you'll ever see him in Vegas when he's 60 years old singing an old tune that he made when he was 30. You know, he's the kind of guy that wants to be challenged. So I really hope you enjoy him. I had Timothy Sheaf in the house, free runner, YouTube Flow host. He's London Real's favorite barefoot vegan, and it was great having Tim there, and we had a really good long chat. So hope you guys like this. You know, originally Beardyman was going to bring his tech in and perform for us, and it couldn't happen at the last minute. He was really busy, and I'm actually glad he didn't, because you know, it's nice to actually get the chat and get to find out what's going on. There are plenty of videos out there where you can see him and his performance and his tech. So this will give you a chance to sit down and get to know the man behind the music. So there you go. As you probably know, if you've been watching this show, we are sponsored by the good folks at Xbrain, and they are a supplement company that brings us all sorts of good products over here in the UK and Europe, notably the Way Better Protein, which is grass-fed from organic free-range cows, sweetened with stevia. I love that stuff. They've got a Xanorex fat burner. They've got some great multivitamins, colon cleanse, and some digestive enzymes. And it's all really good products, and they make it in the smart way. So we love those guys. Please support them. Go check out their products, and you can get 15% off by using the code London Real. So much appreciated about that. Next week on the show, we've got a gentleman by the name of Peter Schiff. And he is a very well-known stock analyst. He's had a radio show for a long time. He ran for US Senate in 2010. He went down to the Occupy movement on Wall Street with a suit and tie and a camera and said, "I'm one of the 1%. What do you have against me? You should be talking to the government, not to the rich folks." And he went down and had like a 2-hour debate with those people. And it was fantastic sitting down with him. And I also had Alessio Rastani, the Robin Hood of Wall Street, the guy that told the BBC Goldman Sachs rules the world. We've had him on before, and both of these guys are expecting a market crash next year in the 2014. And you know, they're quite concerned about it and think that we need to be prepared. They both called the 2007-2008 crash quite reliably, and so it was interesting to see their take on it, and also to get their thoughts on how to prepare and what we can do to avoid some of those things. I mean, the housing market here in London's insane. Some of these stock markets are crazy, and I think that everyone needs to be prepared. So I hope you guys enjoy that show. And also, Alessio is going to be doing a free webinar to teach you how to be prepared for this crash that he thinks is coming up next year, how you can spot when a market's about to go, and how you can not only protect yourself but also profit And I love Alessio's webinars. They're free, they're live. We did one about 4 or 5 months ago. It was fantastic. A lot of people really enjoyed it. He's got a great style to him, and it's all real. This is what he does for a living. So please come check that out. It's going to be December 5th at 8 o'clock GMT, which is British time. There's only a limited number of slots available. I think it's like 500. So if you click on the link below, you can go there, sign up, just put your email address in there. I'll be there. Alessio and I will do a quick little chat beforehand and talk about, you know, whatever Max Kaiser's been wearing that week or something. And then he'll go straight into the webinar. And it's just really good stuff, and I think it's important to be informed. And I always say, you know, a lot of people bitch and whine about, you know, the banks and the financial markets, but, you know, educate yourself, you know, get to know. Do you know what the stock market is? Do you know what an S&P future is? Do you know what a bond future is? Why not? In this day and age of information flow, it's ignorant not to know these things. So, you know, at least stop by. It's like an hour and a half, and get informed. So, so check that out. And that's it. I just wanted to say a shout out to our sponsors at Bulletproof. As you know, I am Bulletproof. I serve it to all the guests on London Real. It's a coffee that's free of molds and toxins. I mix it up with grass-fed butter and the Brain Octane oil, which is like the best of the coconut oil. And you know, that is my breakfast. I have it. I think great in the morning. I don't crave sweets. I don't eat breakfast until really afternoon, and it's just a fantastic product all around. I love what those guys are doing. They're biohacking in the best of ways. So if you want to pick that up, go to upgradedself.com in the US. They've got lower shipping costs, a brand new backbone to their website and their process. And if you want to pick that up in UK or Europe, you can go to Xbrain. Those folks will take care of you. And that's it. You know, get in touch with us. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. If you want to help out or book a guest for me, like one of our guys did, book Peter Schiff for me, then send me a message at brian@londonreal.tv and come along for the ride. And until then, I'm going to leave you with the multi-talented and very fascinating man that is the Beardyman.
To talk up on it though,
But yeah.
All right, we got to start this.
Yeah. Okay, fine.
we can talk about this on the show. That's all good.
Yeah.
All right, are we doing this, guys?
We're doing
good. We got coffee, we got water.
Is my audio all right?
Yeah, you're sounding great.
Cool, all right.
Everyone's sounding great. Okay, let's do this. Yeah? Okay, here we go. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. We're sponsored today by the folks at Xbrain, who are the makers of Way Better Protein Powder. It's organic, made from free-range, grass-fed cows. You can get that at xbrain.co.uk.
Just say arse-fed cows.
No, grass-fed. Grass-fed.
Grass-fed, good, that's better.
That is, well, maybe.
It's actually more healthy. Arse feeding. It's poke.
Ass feeding. So it's grass-fed, not ass-fed cows. And you can get that at xbrain.co.uk. Customer code London Real, 15% off. We're also drinking Bulletproof coffee. Daz is a fan, right? You were liking it? Look at that, perfect. Tim Schiff is drinking it again.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Only on this show, but it's great. Yeah.
This is a guy that doesn't touch caffeine normally.
No.
Okay. Anyways, it's coffee with molds and toxins that aren't in there. Mix it with grass-fed butter.
That sounded more spiritual than always. Molds and toxins that aren't in there. It's like it has invisible, intangible molds and toxins.
And I said grass-fed butter, and I thought you were going to say
I'm just taking your whole shit apart. Oh, can I swear on this?
Yeah, we can swear.
Well, fucking great.
There you go. We're going to be swearing a lot today. So thanks to the guys at Bulletproof. You can get that at Xbrain or Upgraded Self in the US. So let's get going, guys. My co-host today is freerunner Timothy Schiff, who hosts the Flow Show on the YouTube channel Flow. You would have seen Tim on MTV. He's won the Barkley Freerunning Championship. Daz is learning all about Tim. You do videos with stuntman Damian Walters. You're on rugby commercials for the O2. You do the Life in a Handstand videos, the Love in a Handstand videos. He's London Real's favorite barefoot vegan. Timothy Schiff.
Yes, thank you. That's good. Thanks for having me again.
Cool, man. Thanks for being here.
Love being here, man.
Dude, it's always good to have you here. And our guest today is Mr. Darren Foreman, a.k.a. Beardyman, who is a musician from London, renowned for his beatboxing skills and use of live looping technology. According to the BBC, you are the king of sound and the ruler of beats, which would be cool if the BBC didn't say it. That's what I was thinking.
I like the BBC. That's good.
Well, my manager came up with that. Me and my manager together came up with that because they were like, "Well, how do you want to be billed?" And I was like, "What about like the king of sound and the ruler of beats?" And we were like, "Ah, that'd be funny." And he goes and like convinced them to do it. So
it was kind of a joke.
Yeah, but I'll go with that. Yeah, the BBC did that. Yeah,
I like it.
yeah, basically the Queen decided. That's how the Queen thinks of me.
It's a great handle. So you promised today that you're going to rant about the government, trash the room, and then cut yourself.
I did.
So
yeah.
I'm pretty fucking excited.
It's gonna be dope.
Welcome to London Real.
Thanks, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Nice to meet
welcome,
you, mate.
brother.
Thanks for being here. I'm really glad you're here. I'm glad you're not performing because, you know, it's nice to actually talk to the guy who's behind all of the stuff that we do see on YouTube. And like, you got a lot of videos out there and a lot of performances. So I know, is this strange? Do you do a lot of talking where you're not performing, or does that usually come one with the other?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm quite boring, really. You know, just a person sitting in a chair with some opinions and a cat. But you know, I think it's nice to sort of perform and do stuff because it's fun to do so. I've kind of escaped having as we all have, I think, escaped having a job by just doing weird things. It's fun.
We were all just talking earlier, and we all just realized that none of us has a real job. So
What's real, man?
Don't rub it in. People are going to be watching this on their way to work, being like, "Fuckers, I hate them." Yeah.
what's real, man?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you were saying that what, we provide value by doing these things somehow?
Well, yeah, we were talking about whether or not Russell Brand is out of his depth or whether he's doing. I think he's performing a useful function, regardless of whether he's. Because this is the thing. This whole thing out of Jeremy Paxman the other day. Jeremy Paxman was like, "Well, what's your alternative to the present scenario?" And he's like, "Well, I don't have one, but that doesn't matter." And I think he's got a point. Like, at least he's. Drawing attention to the fact that this system isn't working. So hopefully when someone comes along who does have some alternatives, I mean, the thing is, someone coming along with some alternatives isn't going to be the solution. It's going to be, I mean, there needs to be a thoroughgoing public discourse about the nature of a government. And if Russell Brand is going to draw attention to the fact that that discourse needs to happen, then hopefully something will come out of it. I mean, like, there's this sort of ridiculous piecemeal offering that Cameron gave to Clegg, which, for anyone who's watching outside the UK, this is this sort of coalition that somehow allowed just evil to be perpetuated for the last few years, where, you know, the Liberal Democrats have always kind of, what's been said about Liberal Democrats has been that they're fence sitters and that they just go with whatever sort of popular or seems easiest at the time. And I've never really bought that, but evidently that is true, or at least it's happened just because they needed to get into government, so they formed a coalition. And the piecemeal offering that Cameron made was like, well, okay, we'll make a concession towards your sort of policy direction by saying that you can have you can ask the public what they think about voting. And, you know, they had this sort of nationwide smear campaign that followed, that the Tories put out, about the fact that, you know, any alternative sort of voting system would ruin the country. And
this was like the non-majority vote. They were going to say you could like it's in Italy, like it takes a certain percentage of the vote and it awards those to the different people as opposed to the majority wins thing. And then it got shut down. And that whole idea.
Yeah, like, I mean, you know, there was a referendum which was, shall we scrap the current voting system? But the Tories made there be fear amongst the whole country about, like, well, we don't want to try anything new. I mean, that might damage things. But I mean, you know, the party system is the problem. There's the fact that democracy, so-called, all across the world, has this kind of gang mentality within a parliament. Like, you don't need side-taking and group mentality and sort of gangland warfare going on conceptually with it. It's so childish, beyond childish. It's the opposite of what democracy should be, because you have a whip in each party that makes sure that people don't vote with their conscience. They vote with whatever the party line is. So it's tyranny of a different form. What Russell Brand was doing was simply pointing out that there's people like Noam Chomsky out there who point out the problems. So for a comedian to be saying, look, I mean, yeah, he's doing the same thing that George Carlin has done, or that Bill Hicks has done, and been a sort of vocal proponent of the fact that, call it enlightenment if you want, but just call it just learning stuff, being aware of
caring about
educating yourself.
People,
But he's not an activist, and that's the only thing. I mean, I know Tim, you're a big fan, and I know you were saying, and I know he puts a lot of exposure to it. And Russell's known around the world. He's got almost 8 million Twitter followers. That's a good metric. And but even you were saying a little earlier that he can't always back that up with argument and evidence.
No,
of
I
what
think
he's
he can.
doing.
I think he can, but he didn't have. It was a 4-minute interview or something.
Yeah,
It's 11 minutes, but I've watched it a lot of times. But what he's saying is is that whichever you vote for, there's barely any actual change goes on. Politicians these days are only good at being politicians. Like back in Winston Churchill days, a good politician would be someone that really cared and wanted to make a difference and help the people. Now it's got to a stage where politicians are just good at playing the game of being a politician and getting into power. And it's the same with lawyers. To begin with, they used to care about getting the right person, what should happen to the right person, the right thing happens. Now lawyers are just good at helping their one person and not for the justice of the greater good at all. And he's pointing out the fact that you can vote for whoever you want and not much really change. It's a very small parameter change, and we need a big change. And he's saying he's not the one that has the answer to it. He's trying to draw attention to it, and that he knows people, and he meets everyone. He's talked with a lot of people who will have the answer. People like Jack Fresco, who you've had on this show. If anyone like Russell or was in power, political power, you want Jack Fresco helping you with environment or with something like that. You get those people underlying you, and you draw people that actually know about these issues like environment or school system, education system, or the health service. Whereas politicians, they don't know shit about any of that.
Right,
they just know how to be a good politician. That's all they're good.
Dude, I like where you're going, and I want to get back to politics first.
Sorry, go on.
But we got a lot of people in the States that listen to this, and I don't know if they know who you are or not. So what do you do when you meet people on the streets? How do you describe who you are? I mean,
I generally avoid the question.
I mean, I don't know how to describe your performances, if it's like music or improv or comedy or mashup. I mean, like it's a little bit of everything, and it's probably changed over the years.
I don't know what I am. It's for other people to decide.
Okay.
I remember I first saw you on YouTube maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and you were baking a cake. That was really funny.
Kitchen Diaries. That was you, right?
That was me.
Okay.
That was
in
great.
a wig, pretending to be a beatboxing.
That was
chef.
genius. That was really original and creative.
Thanks.
Yeah. And you say you're nothing. You just sit here and you say you're, I don't know.
Just a dude with a cat.
Just a dude with a cat. That's what you say. But when you're that creative and you think that differently, it's not. That's an outlet, but there's obviously you behind that. That's why we're talking to you. We want to.
That was very nice of you.
Yeah.
I don't know what I am.
You shouldn't. That's good. That's a great answer.
person.
You shouldn't have to know what you are.
That was super early days of YouTube, right? I mean, nobody was uploading back then.
Yeah. Well, I've been playing music since I was like 5. I learned the piano, then I learned the viola, and then the drums, and then the bass. I don't know. So, like, I've always been happiest playing music, and I was looking for a way to get into playing music. And I've always beatboxed. I've always beatboxed since I was like 3 years old. And so, I mean, I started beatboxing sort of professionally when I was like, I guess like 20 or 21. Not even professionally, just like, you know, in public. Because up to that point, it had been a kind of dirty habit. You know, it's just kind of literally like sort of tapping your fingers on a desk or something. It's like, it's annoying.
So you weren't copying anyone, you were just doing it on your
I'd
own.
just been so, well, I mean, like, there's always these comparisons drawn with Michael Winslow, the guy from Police Academy, but he wasn't that much of an inspiration to me in the sense that I'd seen all his films or anything. Like, it was only when YouTube came along that people started posting like clip shows of all his bits in. I mean, because no one wants to sit through all the Police Academy movies. Like, he's the only good thing in them.
They don't hold up.
Yeah, there was like the one
He is the
blowjob
only-
steam, and then that's.
I forgot about him until I read your bio, and I remember that guy now.
Oh, right, yeah.
What did he do? Just a car sound? He did everything. Sound.
He
Like
just
video
lots of
games. You pretend to be playing video games.
Yeah, he was brought up on an army base, and then with like no friends because there was just no other kids around. So he'd just stand there, sort of copying the noises of passing engines and stuff like that. But like, I don't know, I've always felt an affinity to him because that's, you know, I thought that noise making was rare and that it was basically me and him. And then, you know, because the internet was appearing, you know, in this kind of current sort of multimedia format, there were all these videos coming out of other kids my age who...
Faith SFX, I remember.
Faith SFX.
Before YouTube.
Shlomo.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Killer
like
Keller.
Hobbit. Yeah, Killer Keller, who was like pre-YouTube kind of fame of like, you know, cut his teeth doing like drum and bass raves and stuff like that. And Razel, who had been playing for like 10 years or something or more, who just had this big breakthrough album at that time, I mean, especially for a beatboxer.
What about Men in Black, Biz Markie?
Biz Markie. Well, I mean, God, we could talk about like the growth of beatbox.
Did Biz Markie beatbox? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was
Kind of. Yeah.
He did
like,
in that film. He was in The Postman, right? He was at the post office.
Was he?
In Men in Black. Yeah, he did a little bit of like speaking to Will Smith.
Oh yeah, in like an alien.
Yeah, in Alien
language.
beatboxing. Yeah.
Yeah. But his beatbox has been getting more and more nuanced since then. I mean, because of YouTube, you know, I started doing stuff on YouTube when it first came out, which was what, 7-8 years ago.
yeah.
And yeah, that kitchen thing you were talking about, that was, I mean, there weren't that many videos on YouTube at the time. You know, it was like, you know, you could count in the thousands, I guess, at first, you know, the videos that were on there. And you know, so anything that went, you know, there was one beatbox video, I remember there being one beatbox video on YouTube. It's crazy to think now. Like, and it was this, guy beatboxing at this like, and he was like doing some sideshow to like a half-empty gig between two bands, and he wasn't very good, and it got like 1 million views, which was loads back then, and like you know, it's been passed around by email. Oh my god, this guy's incredible, and the thing was a clip show, so like he'd be beatboxing for 5 minutes, and then you know it would cut to him just sitting down. He like got bored, and he was sitting there like beatboxing, sitting down, but people were still really interested by it. Like some people were leaving the auditorium, kind of thing, and like it was a really shitty performance. But I don't know what it was called, whether you can still find it now. But it was like massive. So I put up some video of like this like stupid self-effacing like beatbox chef thing, and we did loads of takes.
Genius.
It was a cool idea, but I did it for like
one take as well. I mean, it's a long take.
Yeah, we spent a whole day trying to get a good take, and then we got what we thought was the best take, and then we were kind of we'll just have to use this one because we can't quite get it perfect. And then we realized that the mic was ruffling, so we did it again, and that it was just this amazing take where all the kind of things we were trying to do kind of
came together.
And then it started racking up views and stuff, and that in a way launched my career, I guess, because there weren't that many videos on YouTube at the time, so that was kind of unusual. And I refused to do any more of those joke beatbox videos. Like I didn't want to, because I didn't want to be a sort of, I didn't want that to be my thing, and I didn't want that to be.
Why not?
Because I mean,
that's transcending the art of beatboxing. You're not just sticking to competitions.
Yeah, beatbox itself is juvenile. It's just like I've got no time for it. Like all these, there's loads of beatboxers now.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to see that beatbox is being part of the sort of mainstream in, you know, it's
so you feel you have you don't consider yourself just a beatboxer because you do the looping stuff and things like that, and you're like a sound.
I've never liked beatbox. I've always thought that it's ridiculous. Like it's not a job. It's not even an art form. It's showing off at a party at best.
But you won the beatbox competition in the UK,
and even then
06, 07, right?
Yeah, and even then it was like stupid. Like I won it by mocking it. Like I won it by sort of making it, doing this weird meta thing of like just being really funny. I wasn't even very good back then. Like as soon as I won it the first time, I was like, Jesus, I need to really practice now because I'm supposed to be representing and I'm going to get slated if I'm not actually that good. So I just practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. And then the next year, I won it again. And then I was like, well, now attention is going to be on me because I've won it twice. So now I need to get even better. And I practice and practice. But I've never been as good as the people like Roxa Loops or like Faith SFX or you know, Razel. I don't think anyone's ever bettered Razel, is the point. Like, I think beatboxing, as people kind of see it, is people trying to be Razel, trying to do what he did. And what he did was a kind of mixture of Kenny Mohammed, who was amazing, who was like an early beatbox progenitor in the sort of late 80s, early 90s and stuff, who really kind of pushed the art form. I say it's not an art form, but it is an art form, obviously.
It's an art form.
Of course it's an art form. I mean, like, it's a very purist art form, and it's like playing the lute. It's like, you know, what can you get out of this very limited instrument? Limited in the sense, I mean, you can make a range of noises, but the limitation is that you only have this one sound hole, and so you can pretend you're doing more than one thing at the same time. But like Razel mastered the art of you know, making people think he was a robot by doing these noises, sort of playing with, you know, it's this amazing level of performance. I suppose why I got frustrated with it is that even though I know that it is a valid art form and it is a sort of, you know, eminent pursuit, it's so limiting in terms of what you can do. So like the bookings I was getting were like 10 minutes between bands, or like hosting a big stage, which was great because loads of people were seeing me, but like, what am I doing? I'm standing there pretending to be a trumpet, pretending to be I don't know, like doing covers of other people's songs. It's like being a bloody wedding DJ. It's just embarrassing. It's an embarrassing thing to do. So I've never had any respect for it. I've never really thought it was like, I never thought it was going to be a career, and it wasn't. You know, it never has been. It was like a sort of, I knew that it had this kind of natural arc, and that if I wanted to be in music and I wanted to satisfy the urges that I had to I mean, I've always wanted to be doing what I'm doing now, and the next stage that I'm working on, which is all very technologically based, this is something which I've always wanted to do, which is the idea of being able to do what you can do with beatbox, but have it not be shit. So like you imagine music in your head, and it just happens, which is something that many have dreamt of doing, but no one's ever bothered to try really. Like people have made like, it's like any piece of music tech you see is in some way or another an effort to do that. Like to try and make it easier to make the sounds you hear in your head, or to try and make it easier to experiment freely and have your experiments turn into sort of viable sounds by sort of you working with the technology so that you are one thing and a happy accident can happen that can spur an idea. There's all kinds of crazy technology that people are innovating, mostly in code these days, but there's hardware as well. But like what I'm trying to do is to specifically reduce the amount of time that it takes to make the sounds in your head. And I've invested heavily in a system which I now use, where I've got these coders to help me. Well, these coders are building this thing for me in code.
This is your proprietary software.
This is my proprietary software, and that's where my main focus is now, because it's beatbox is great, but it's novelty as hell. And you can try and be purist about it, but if you're purist about it, then you just end up with the same trick over and over and over again. And you can keep innovating new sounds, but they're always derivations of the same 4 or 5 key sounds. You can you can try and sort of be a better and better showman, which is, I mean, that's a valid pursuit, but at the same time, I mean, you're never going to keep a crowd going for an hour just on your own with your mouth,
right,
and have it not be slightly limiting to your ideas, unless you change what your ideas are so they're focused on the art form. I mean, I suppose like if you are really, really focused on a particular art form, then you work with those limitations and you learn to love those limitations. You know what I mean? Like with free running, like it would probably be cheating to strap on a rocket pack, as nice as that would be. You'd be like, well, I'm restricted by my human body. Maybe I can teleport. You spend loads of money trying to make a teleporting machine or flying or something. But like, if you're going to be purist about it, you go, well, what can I do with this? So like, I don't know, I guess I've always been so impatient with the limitations because they weren't my original, like my original dream was just to make music as fast as I could think of it. So that's always what I've been interested in. So I suppose I don't want to like diss all beatboxers and say that it's juvenile.
You're going to hear about this.
Have.
Were you the first one to do the looping and what year was that you combine music with your beatbox and the looping? And
I've not really been the first to do anything.
I've seen Beatbox do it. I've seen. There's another guy.
I was the first to do what I'm doing in terms of. I was the first to use the actual setup that I was using, which was like Chaos Pad. So as soon as they came out, I was like, well, that might work. And at that point, I already had a whole bunch of hardware that I was using, which just wasn't working.
Is that MPC? Is that
not an MPC? It was a thing called a loopurlative.
Okay.
And it was made by one dude in his garage, and he had like a liver complaint. And I was like, dude, this thing keeps crashing on me. Nothing. So I was like, well, this isn't going to work. So I had to use some sort of shop bought stuff. So the Chaos Pad came out. I was like, well, this kind of does all the things I wanted to do, but it's kind of clunky. So I was always working on like a sort of setup, which was lots of different machines, lots of different bits of hardware, lots of different bits of software, and I kept iterating, but it never reached the stability enough for me to actually use it live. So
and what year was this?
I was just building up Chaos Pads, just loads of these fucking Chaos Pads, linking them together and increasingly complex.
Is this like 09, 4 years ago, 5 years ago? When you started playing with the Chaos
From
Pads?
back in the day, I think they came out in 2007, Chaos Pad 3, which is the one I was using. And that, that was my sort of staple piece of technology from then onwards. But I cracked, I think, like a couple of years ago, where I was like, this isn't what I want to be doing. The Chaos Pads are so limiting that I keep having to do covers of other people's music still to keep the crowd really interested. And I don't want to be doing covers. I've been writing songs since I was 5 years old. Why am I doing covers? So, and it was not just that, but like, I wanted to be doing like dance music. And the Chaos Pads are all right, but they're not, you can't do proper dance music with side chaining and mixing and all this technical music production stuff. I mean, the Chaos Pads are great, but they don't do that stuff. And it was just an arse about tit way of making music. And I was just losing my mind. I was just like, well, do I use Ableton like everyone else does, which is just like music tech software that everyone uses? Or do I build my own thing? Because at this point, I was already, I had loads of failed attempts at trying to build the perfect system using bits of other people's software and stuff, and I was just like, none of this is working.
Were you having success musically at this point? Or when did you become like not Beardyman the beatboxer, but Beardyman the performance guy?
I don't know, really. It's a transition I'm still trying to make. Like I had like some success with beatboxing when I won the beatbox championships. And this is incredibly self-indulgent talking about myself.
We'll get to the other stuff. We'll get to the other stuff. They'll know who you are, then we'll get back to the politics, Russell Brand.
Right, yeah.
And cutting yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. What was the question?
Like, when could you actually make money as a performer where you added the loops in and added music in? Was it like 09 or 10 where they're like, okay, we will pay you to come here, and you're like, wow, there's thousands of people coming to watch me perform and I'm not just beatboxing anymore? Do you remember like that moment, or was that a certain point in time?
I don't know. I've kind of taken a really sort of arse backwards way of doing what I'm doing. I'm still making music in a really twisted sort of non-logical way that doesn't really make sense. Like
No, but you're creative. Like you're trying. It's great. To
I guess
try
so.
it. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Well,
you're out of the box thinking. Like you've got to be doing it. You can't just follow. You don't want to follow the path that's been laid out a million times before.
Well,
and you're very honest about beatboxing as well.
That's like I saw Pink Floyd interviewed back in the 70s, and they were like, how do you do it? You've never played ball with the charts and stuff, and you've never released singles, but yet you still achieve success, but you eschew that route, and they're like, we're not eschewing it, we're still trying to figure out how to do it. I don't know whether that was just them being self-effacing, but like,
I was thinking when Daz came over here, I was like, I don't think we'd ever see him like when he's 50 years old with like a big gut in Vegas, like, and here's Daz, the beatboxer. You seem that when you get bored with something, you move on.
Well, there's a clip of John Lennon talking about how he didn't want to be, was when he's 50 singing Love, Love Me Do or whatever it is,
Yeah, he still is.
Well, no, and then,
he's dead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He wouldn't have been anyway. I mean, I don't know, people like that, people like, oh Christ! I mean, Radiohead or I don't know. So anyone who's continually reinventing themselves. God, there's loads of examples. Like I mean that's more. These are the people I look up to and respect. Like I don't like the idea of limiting yourself to one particular thing. I don't like the idea of having a thing.
Yeah.
Like
because you as a human have got so much more to give, and some people do limit themselves to I am this now, and that's all I am going to be.
Yeah, God. I mean, people who have like one big hit. And then they live off that for the rest of their life, and then that's their thing. That's what they do. The thing is, even like Radiohead refused to play Creep.
You can't be content with that, can you? Yeah.
Like Nirvana never wanted to play Teen Spirit,
right?
Because they're like, look, we don't want to have a thing that's our thing. That's the thing we're known for, which is the dumbest thing we've done. Like right now, as we speak, I'm at number 2 in the charts with a track I did with Fatboy Slim and Calvin Harris, and it's the dumbest thing I've ever done. It's me talking shit, and the track's called Eat, Sleep, Rave, Repeat.
That was you on that.
Yeah. And it's
that's
like
sick though. Well done.
You quite like it.
Well,
I don't know.
No, I respect
like,
that you're number 2. I respect that you're number 2 in the charts. Like that's
it's a dumb tune. It's the dumbest tune. Like it's gonna annoy people because it's like eat, sleep, rave, repeat, eat, sleep, rave, repeat.
I heard it on someone and it annoyed me, but I respect.
It's an annoying tune.
But I respect that you played the game though. You played the game though, and you got number 2.
Well, no, like I mean, I went into Fatboy Slim's studio and he was like, "I've had this idea: eat, sleep, rave, repeat," and I'm like, "That's quite funny." And he's like, "Can you imagine you've been up for 3 days and to talk?" And I was like, "All right." So, I mean, we talked a bit, like exchanged stories about things we've done when we've been on 3-date benders, and then I just talked some shit, and then he stuck it together. I forgot all about it. A year and a half later, he's like, "I've put this together. What do you think?" I'm like, "Oh, it's quite funny, I guess." Yeah. And he stuck it on a mix CD and thought nothing more about it. And then he's gone, "Oh, Calvin Harris has done a remix of it. We're going to put it out." I was like, "Okay, well, it's actually, to be honest, it's quite kind of ravey. And whenever I've seen it being played out live, like Steve Aoki's opening his sets with it, like Tiesto's playing his sets with it, man. Like, wow. Norman Cook's playing it. David Guetta's closing his sets with it and shit. Like, none of these DJs, apart from Norman Cook, are DJs who I particularly like. But like, but they're huge and they smash it. And the tune goes down amazingly. And to be fair, there's no annoying trance stabs in it. There's it's like an acid tune. It is acid. So like, I don't hate it at all. Like, I quite like it. Like the video is quite good as well. They did this. There was this film brought out in the 50s called They Shoot Horses, Don't They? That you might have heard of, which was a sort of...
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It was a fiction, but it's based on truth about sort of these Depression era, like American Depression era dance competitions where people would have to dance till they dropped for like a paltry few $100s or something. And like, it would have been less than that in the 30s, wouldn't it? Anyway, people would, pass out and die and shit. So they restaged one of these events for real, but with it was like a rave. So they had like drug tests before to make sure no one was on drugs. They had, bouncers. It was in this little warehouse space. They had like a sort of show caller at the front, picking people off the dance floor if they were slowing down and stopped dancing. Yeah. It was savage. Like it starts off like it's really fun kind of competition idea, and by the end of it, it's
in
just
England,
brutal. Yeah, somewhere in London, I think.
Really?
Quite close to here, somewhere in East London.
How long did that last?
I think the one who danced the longest was like you even had to dance in the toilet. And they've got footage of people like dancing in the toilet. And then I think the longest dancing was like, it wasn't that long, it was like 12 hours or something, but that's still quite a lot, like with no drugs or anything, that's like a long time to be dancing.
Wow.
So like, I don't know, so the video is really cool. It's just got like playlists. The trouble though with the way the radio works in the UK, and I know this like plays into the hands of the record companies, and in this instance it's probably helped with my chart position and all this crap, but like, it's really weird the way that mainstream radio works, was that you have like a playlist, which is like you have your A rotation, your B rotation, and the A rotation, they play the same 10 songs every couple of hours. The B list, they play the same 10 songs like every day. I don't know whether there's a C list and a D list.
There is something below that, but that's just like...
Yeah.
And radio still matters? It's
radio matters more than ever.
Really?
Because the music industry is so diffuse that it's, you know... This is
the only thing tying it together.
Radio 1 is music for people who don't care about music. Radio 1 is music for people who are indifferent to music. It's music for people who are doing other things. Well, so they need some kind of soundtrack to be on to distract them from the hell that is their lives. It's like you'll listen to it in a shop by force. You'll listen to it in a barber's because you have no choice. You'll listen to it, you know, in the office because some dickhead has put it on. Like, it's not a good thing. Late at night they have specialist shows and dance shows which are pretty good.
Yeah.
But like, even then you've got to choose the show, or you never know what you're going to get. But like, the mainstream sort of playlists and stuff, the DJs don't choose it, and then they have to say that's the great new track by, and they don't necessarily think
fake,
that.
isn't it? It ruins.
So there's this sort of tissue of lies which envelops the whole of the music industry that is mainstream radio, and I'm now part of that, whether I like it or not. And I mean, to be fair to Norman Cook, like, he cut the bollocks that I chatted into something which was genuinely quite funny. The actual song, like, not the Calvin Harris remix, is kind of this harmless kind of vocal, like prose sort of house track, which is, you know, it's funny. You know, it's not like laugh out loud hilarious, but it's quite entertaining. Yeah. There's nothing clever about it.
does that help you being in the charts? I mean, does it?
Who knows?
Who knows?
But it might hinder me as much as it helps me, because people are
How?
well, because some people are going to hate it.
Okay.
Oh, this motherfucker. If he hadn't known it.
I respect that.
If we'd have been talking about that, if I'd have just mentioned Eat, Sleep, Baby, Repeat, you'd have been like, I fucking hate that tune. Do you know what you
I don't hate anything. I did this. It did annoy me when I first.
Exactly. It would annoy me if I'd first heard it.
But that's because it's very commercial. But I always respect like Skrillex. Like, I hate his music.
He's a genius.
But he
hasn't done like.
He plays it well.
No, he's a fucking genius. He's a production genius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I actually quite like the production on the Eat, Sleep, Rave, Repeat Calvin Harris movies. I think it's quite good. But there's nothing clever about it. It's just like, I don't know, I think like Skrillex's stuff is absolutely just amazing. The amount of skill that goes into, like, but he winds some people up. Some people hate Skrillex, but fine. This is the problem with like success, is that you get, it's probably different for someone like you where there's so much skill in what you do that like no one's going to hate on you, apart from maybe other free runners who are like, oh, this is bullshit. Yeah, but like most people will just, no one will be like, oh, free running just winds me up. Maybe like old people will, because they're like,
if someone says that,
rapscallions crowding up my
then they
pavements.
they live in fear. They're like, oh, you're going to hurt yourself, but they just see the world through their own eyes, and they don't appreciate other people have.
Cousin of mine is like 19, and he's just going on to going on his like gap year, and he's like, I want it to be as dangerous as possible. I want to go work in a mine. I'm like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, oh no, you're 19. Like, that's it. He's just like full of the need for adventure. And I'm like, are you fucking crazy? That's like, it's a really dangerous, toxic thing to do. But he's like, yeah, but I just want some danger. Like,
Jesus.
You know.
Did you ever DJ, or did you ever want to do that, or do the Ibiza scene, or
DJ?
That? Yeah.
Well, I've played Ibiza a couple of times, but
how was that?
yeah, it's cool. I mean, you know, it's its own world, Ibiza. Well, it was its own world. It was kind of very sort of closeted, sort of only a specific kind of music with a kind of particular cabal of DJs. But I say that as if there's something sinister about it. They're the original guys that originated dance music in its modern form, and the scene and the whole industry of dance music started with those people like Carl Cox and stuff, and people who were out in Ibiza. You know, the scene started in Ibiza, like, you know, Brits and Germans and stuff. Going out to Ibiza, you know, at first it was kind of a sort of holiday destination stroke hippie haunt, and then it turned into a sort of weird amalgamation of both when ecstasy came along, and suddenly this huge thing happened in 1988 where people realised that, and like, football violence decreased by an order of magnitude because people were seeing each other at games that they'd seen in raves, and were like, oh mate, instead of seeing people that they'd seen in the pub and throwing chairs at. You know, it was, it really, that affected the cultural landscape.
And then what's Ibiza like now? Is it commercialized, or are you not one of those people that says that? Because it has changed a lot.
Well, of course it's commercialised. I mean, everything has. You know, global progress is on a steady sort of march towards running water and electricity. Like, Ibiza in the 70s was a completely different place.
People say there's like a good energy. Like Bruce Parry lives there. He loves
Oh yeah, well there's I got married there recently.
Oh really?
Like yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Wow.
And like it's this kind of I said that with like some regret. It's more just because people look at it and people are like, well done, mate. Like no, but it's dope. It was literally the best day of my life. Like
Awesome.
That's a strong statement.
no, it is, because like I thought that being on drugs would be, one of those experiences would be the best day of my life, and I genuinely thought, I was like, well, that's something girls say about their wedding, is it was the best day of my life, but actually it was the best day of my life. Like all my friends came along to Ibiza, which is just this beautiful, and because this is the thing, it's like when people think of Ibiza, it's this kind of horror, vision of like roaming packs of predatory males out to get as fucked as possible and like just, slags and just awful music. But it's not that. There is that side to it, like San Antonio is that. But you go outside of San Antonio and there's beautiful clubs. You go outside of that, there's this idyllic sort of, forest coated sort of mountainous paradise, really, of kind of, obviously it used to be a lot more kind of untouched, and now it has been more commercialized. But you still have the kind of Abyssinian culture existing in pockets. You still have this kind of hippie mentality, which kind of exists there still, and certainly in the kind of the northern sort of side of the island, it's idyllic, absolutely idyllic. So there is another side to Ibiza. Because in the 70s it was a hippie place. It was like
total
a
hippie, right?
Complete sort of hippie retreat. But there's a lot of San Franciscans went over there. Like, when the hippie bubble burst, a lot of them were like, well, Haight Street got crowded with dickheads, and the American public's kind of turned against us, and the police don't like us. Where can we go now? And
Is
a
that
lot
like
of them just went to
80s,
Ibiza.
early 80s, and they just got out, or late 70s?
No, like early 70s.
Okay.
Well, like, because Haight Street was cool for like 6 months, and then you got these like busloads of just arseholes thinking, well, we can get sex here, and there's drugs here, and then the wrong drugs started happening, and the wrong sex started happening, and Haight Street got really ugly, and the hippies moved out, and
They moved to Ibiza.
a lot of them moved to Ibiza. Some of them moved to Ibiza. Some of them just moved out and joined cults in the desert and shit, and then it got weird.
And
The
the wedding,
70s were weird.
the wedding was good.
Yeah, sorry, wedding was brilliant. Yeah. It was amazing. The best day of my life.
I used to hate on weddings too, but it's like the one day where all of your friends will make an effort to show up, and if you're in a really cool place like Ibiza, everyone's having
We spent
a
like
good
2
time.
days partying in the pool. Like, it was, yeah.
Makes me nervous talking about weddings.
Is it? Why? Because you're next.
Just not ready for that. I don't know.
Me neither. And I'm older than you.
Yeah,
If you find the right girl, it's a good idea.
I think so. I agree with it, but how do you know?
Yeah, that's true.
You obviously had a great.
Well, you can never know. You've got to take a gamble.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you can know. You can know.
Yeah,
Well, you better know, otherwise.
yeah. I'm waiting to know. But
Don't be asking. I watched your TED Talk, and
Yeah,
it
I was
came
gonna
out
say.
recently. You were going to ask about TED Talk. How was that whole experience? Were you nervous? Did you know what to talk about it?
Fuck, it was nerve-wracking, yeah.
Was it?
Well, yeah, I mean,
You
like...
get one shot, right?
Yeah, you only get one shot, and I haven't cured any diseases or redesigned any cities, so there's no real reason for me to be there, other than that I can sort of... I mean, I was keen to talk about this technology I had. I mean, now looking back at it, I think it was premature that I was demonstrating this technology and trying to shout about it as if it was interesting. Because, like, everyone in there was a .com billionaire or millionaire. Like, it's kind of this Silicon Valley... haven where if you're like, hey, got $1 million, got 7,000 US dollars, I think it is, for a ticket.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, that's what you don't see on the videos, is that everyone in that room
And they don't pay.
is
Do they pay you to
beyond
perform?
rich.
Do
Beyond
they pay you
rich.
to perform?
No.
And yours was
Yeah.
a TED, proper TED. So
They like
I've
they
heard that
they
side
meet
of it
your
before.
costs,
Okay.
but you don't get any guest list, because they have like
don't even get
£7,500 dollars per ticket. So why would they? Like, that's how.
And the
they
people
earn
that go and watch, do they then get to speak to the people that showed afterwards and be like, I want to invest?
Oh,
and
you're
help you
encouraged
develop?
to. Yeah. So in that sense, it's kind of priceless. Like,
So you got a great audience for what you do. Yeah, you don't need to be paid on top of that audience. You can't put a price on that audience.
exactly. I mean, and then you get to hang out with all these millionaires, but they're not arseholes. They're all very... I mean, there's a bit of kind of one-upmanship that goes on, obviously, but no one's comparing Rolexes. They're more comparing, like,
How many lives
VC
they've had.
funding.
IPOs.
Yeah, like, it's more that, like, who's who. Well, like, Matt Groening was there. Like, and he
Simpsons creator.
created what we now know as comedy, I guess. I don't know, like I was so starstruck by so many people. Like Amanda Palmer was there, and she's kind of a heroine of sorts. And then there's like, yeah, I mean, the guy that invented, every website that you use, like Larry Page and Sergey Brin were both there. I was like, oh, someone's wearing Google Glass. It's Sergey Brin. Fuck.
Yeah.
Like, there's just sitting there, just sort of tapping away. Like, who else? Just loads of people.
Is it cultish? I mean, there's been some.
It is a bit cultish.
There's been the TED fellows like Eddie Huang, who's on the Rogan Experience, and a few.
Yeah, I
people,
saw that.
Yeah, that have said that he.
Man, I felt his pain. I felt his pain.
Did you have to do a bunch of stuff like?
Well, they came down hard on me about guest lists and stuff. Like, I was trying to get my wife into stuff, and we like.
What?
Yeah, they would. This is the thing. Like,
in.
I'm like, it's my wife. Like, this is virtually me. It's like a whole other half of. Please let her in. They went, no.
So they're very strict about like formats, what you have to attend, and all that stuff. But I guess that's what makes it.
Well,
great.
if you're a TED fellow, like
that's different.
Like, is it Eddie Huang?
Eddie was a TED fellow.
He was a TED fellow. If you're a TED fellow, then they've deemed you interesting enough to have your presence be required, and they require your presence. So this is what he was talking about.
Yeah.
I wasn't actually aware of exactly how strict they were on the TED fellows until I saw that, which is it was.
Do you know this whole story?
No.
So he was a TED fellow, which means they put you as, I guess,
Is he the Vice guy?
No, this is the. He did a few things on Vice. Okay. He does a cooking thing.
Yeah.
He's like
that's the only reason
Chinese American or Korean?
Yeah.
Chinese American. I'm gonna get in trouble for that. But he had to be there for like a certain. I think he had to be there for 5 days straight. He couldn't leave like the area. And
How did he get that? Authority, that right? Or
well, they offered him up the TED fellow. He accepted
what
it.
makes him interesting? What's he?
All the stuff
background?
What is he? I don't know what he did.
Stuff or there's something before the
He's
Vice?
like the younger Anthony Bourdain. He's like a
okay, so it's
rock
from
and
his
roll
cooking
chef.
stuff. Yeah, okay.
He's got like a whole different view on immigration, on growing up, in America, mixed race, or all this stuff. And he does these shows. He's a chef. He wrote a book, and they liked him. So like, you be a fellow. And I think when he got there, he didn't realize all the commitments, and he left to go do the Rogan show. And they were like, "You can't leave." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" So he was like, "Fuck you guys." Yeah,
great.
So, anyways, TED has that kind of weird.
It's slightly cultish. I mean, like, it's interesting what TED are doing, because they're doing a very progressively agendaed effort to disseminate useful and innovative ideas to try and make the world fairer, better, more efficient, more progressive, and perhaps more liberal and forward-thinking. So you can't really fault them for what they're doing. But obviously, their kind of take no prisoners attitude to the sort of minutiae of things will wind some people up. But I mean, there was one bit of controversy that I did find a little bit weird, which was that they had, for the TEDx things, obviously they have to be slightly prescriptive about what they will and won't allow in a TEDx talk, because they can't control every single aspect without...
They banned Graham Hancock's and...
Yeah, we've had Graham Hancock here.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And also they have a thing...
And
you can't talk about food as medicine. Which is horseshit, because that is... So yeah, you didn't go into too much detail about this, but you could more, because this is cool. Like, but you can't...
That's crazy. I swear
you can't talk about food as medicine.
I've seen some talks like that.
You can.
Where they have talked about tomato does this for you.
Maybe they just wanted to limit the amount of people who are talking about it, so it doesn't become like a repetitive thing. But but you're not allowed to...
They have some rules.
That's crazy.
They have, but I don't know if, so if you've seen people do talks about it, then I'm sure they're not against it. But if they just probably don't want to make sure that it's just hammering the point home again and again and again.
Yeah.
But then again, there are too many superbugs being created. The immune system is our best fight against disease. Yeah. Bolstering that is the best way to get around it. Like, reducing the cost of healthcare is important, and that can be done by using food as medicine. I had a stomach upset, and I went to NHS hospital, and I was on a drip for 5 days. I just come back from India, and I had like Campylobacter. It was awful. So like, I was a savage. But and they were giving me like milk at meal times, and I was like,
that's dairy,
really bad. Like, you shouldn't be there. But and that's in like a hospital. So, but at the same time,
they don't talk to each other.
They've just introduced homeopathy as a treatment on the NHS, and there's no evidence that homeopathy works. Like, I mean, there is evidence that acupuncture works. There is evidence that all different kinds of alternative medicine do have results. Homeopathy is not science. It's not a thing.
What's homeopathy?
That's where these infinitely small amounts
of like different toxins, and they heal. And some people will really believe in it. Yeah, I'm not convinced.
Can't they just give people plants and trees to look at?
There you
That's
go.
supposed to work, right?
There you go.
That
If you're in
probably has.
hospital, you can
that
see
probably
a tree outside.
The power of placebo is really strong. It's
Yeah.
like if you believe you're going to get better, you stand a higher chance of getting better.
Yeah,
So that's where like the power of prayer supposedly
Well,
has.
even
Like,
that's why
slightly
the
sort of
problem
healing
is
thing.
when doctors are very pessimistic and they can't say, oh, you're going to be fine, and then you're not, because then you could sue them. And then
Nah.
even that approach itself, they're like, oh, but it could be bad. And then that makes you come in with a negative attitude, and straight away you're afraid that it's not going to get better, and then it doesn't. Whereas if they were like, you're going to be fine, some people might not be fine, but 100% the placebo effect, more of people will be
The
better.
placebo effect is huge.
It's so big.
60 Minutes did a thing on that, and they were with a pharmaceutical company, and they admitted that like 40% of their success was placebo, or 50%, and they're like, what the hell? And they're like, well, yeah, but still, they would rather prescribe the drugs.
Can I ask you something about on the TED Talk? You did the monk, that two-tone
Throat singing, yeah.
Throat singing. Do you make two noises at the same time, or is that?
You do an overtone. So like, you have your like, any sounds apart from a pure sine wave, which is like this, like a sinusoidal.
Is that like the om noise, like a?
No.
Okay.
It's you can't really generate it, like. You can't do it. Like
Yeah.
if you were able to do it, then you like synthesizers can do it, but even they're not entirely pure. It depends how you. Anyway, so like any note that can be generated using like an organic system or something is like made of loads of different overtones, or can be analyzed in that way.
Yeah.
And if you accentuate any of those overtones, it sounds like you're singing two notes at the same time.
But you're not actually.
You're not, but who's to say? I mean, it's.
That was the basis of your talk, is that you started off
Well,
by saying...
you know, I
can
could have
only
gone
make
into a
one
lot
note.
more about that.
But I found that fascinating alone, because surely, how long does that take you to learn, or is that a weird question? Could you just do that, or did you like?
I'm still not an expert.
Okay, but did you see monks or hear monks do it and be like, I want to try and learn that particular thing?
Yeah. Well, no. If you're properly doing it, then you can kind of almost circular breathe it, and you can kind of do it for you know, and it helps you to sort of meditate and achieve mindfulness and stuff like that. But I mean,
Well, how do you take care of your voice? That's what I wanted to know. I'm like, do you have formal lessons, or do you voice train? Or
Oxygen mask, or those.
I mean, you really strain
your
your
throat
voice a
and
lot,
stuff.
right?
Actually, I kind of damaged my throat fairly badly, like a couple of years ago, to the point where it sounded damaged, it felt damaged, it was painful. I was like, this isn't good, because of that like.
That's it. Yeah.
Jeez.
It's not a good thing to do with your voice. And I went and saw
Why
like an
do they do
ENT
it?
specialist, and I was like, what am I actually doing here when I do that? I was like, what's going on? So he stuck a thing down my nose, and he was like, go on, do it. And I was like, basically, your vocal cords are like a cat's vagina. They're like this. They're really small. Yeah. They're like a tiny little vagina. And they kind of, they're tiny. So what makes it's just the sort of shape of your mouth that sort of, well, there's an incredible amount of air that goes through it to sort of make this loud sound. But then you've got these other sort of flaps that you only use when you kind of shout, like when you start to go like ah, like if you know ah, that kind of so you jump like that, ah, like that. Or if you're doing an impression of a Wookiee or something, that if you kind of fold them in, like really squeeze your throat, then they start to sort of vibrate, and you can get them to vibrate in accordance with like as a kind of an undertone of the note you're singing. So they flap at like half the rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you damage your voice doing that.
It can be damaging doing it. In fact, I mean, what the ENT guy told me was that like people who have damaged their vocal cords end up talking with that. So when you hear like 60-year-old women who have smoked all their lives and they sound like this, that's why. It's because they're talking with the flaps just above the real ones that aren't meant to be used for that, really. That's why you have a limited range when you're sort of talking like that.
That's really interesting.
So are you careful now with your voice?
Yeah, I'm more careful. I mean, I used to smoke, and I used to like drink more heavily, especially like there were times when I'd be beatboxing loads, doing that noise loads, and then come off stage and then sort of be like, right, pass me a spliff, right, pass me some alcohol, and then I'd be in like a smoky room just shouting, you know, and then I'd wake up the next morning and be like, I can't do this gig tonight, you know. So you can't do that.
Gotta
really.
choose,
Yeah.
Are you always like going around the world and like studying different like vocal techniques, or watching what people do, or is it not that specific what you do?
Well, there's loads of beatboxers now who are just incredible. Like, I mean, really incredible. Like, the art form has progressed so much since I started.
You said it wasn't an art form.
I did say it wasn't an art form, didn't I? But I suppose, I don't know. Let me rephrase that. It is an art form, but it's not one that I'm interested in pursuing.
Fair enough.
That's a better way of saying it. Yeah, no, but it's progressed so much because, well, I don't know if the art form itself has progressed in terms of how it's used or like its breadth. But in terms of the range of sounds, it has increased, but not necessarily into like there's a certain number of sounds that you can make. There's like you do stuff with your lips like or like which is like so you which is with the kind of loosened sides with the lips smacking together, or which is the insides of your lips. It sounds like farts, but you can tune each one differently. Or you can doesn't sound very good here, but if you're on a microphone, you're cupping it and stuff, and it's really loud. So that's just the lips, and then you've got, you know, with your lips as well. It all sounds like farts. It's a stupid art form. But like, and then you've got things you can do with your voice, like the overtone thing I was doing,
right.
or like all the different crazy things you can do, all the different tonalities you can get with your voice. You can whistle through your teeth, whistle using your tongue, you can whistle using your lips. You can do like, you know, which is like with air in your cheek. So there's loads of different places you can make noises with using your face. But
is there new stuff every year?
But no one has discovered anything new you can do with it in about 6-7 years, really.
Okay.
Other than combining those or doing noises using those different things, but crazily sort of different sounding noises using that. But I've not heard any real innovation. This is the thing, when I was fascinated by beatbox for about a year, like between the beatbox championships that I won, I guess I was, at that point, I wanted to be the first person to get like a beatbox only, a single mouth only song in the charts. That was my dream for that year.
Did you make a song?
That's what I'm, no, because I tried to think of how you would do it.
I'm sure I saw one of you where your head was spinning on a...
So no other instruments.
Yeah, but that wasn't
just
my
your,
head.
just
But
your
there
voice.
was a rapper on that or something.
Well, I've done
was that?
I've done things with beatbox that I've thought were interesting, and I've never wanted to repeat myself. So that's why I didn't want to do any other ideas doing like novelty beatbox comedy sketches, because I was like, well, it's now trite because I've done it, and I didn't want people to say, oh, that wasn't as good as the last one you did. That was better.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just move on and just redefine what it was. So I've done sort of projects that are really interesting, like
Sounds wise. Yeah, no, I think so. I think some people get caught up in one thing and it worked, let's keep doing that. But it's like...
But I mean, so, you know, on the flip side of that, some people focus on an art form and keep trying, like, I don't know, I've heard it, so we were talking about Woody Allen in the lift, like, Woody Allen has stuck to movies, stuck to not the same genre necessarily, but like kept hammering away at the same themes of love and death and, you know, sort of matters of the heart versus matters of the mind and tragedy versus comedy and all these kind of things, and just kept hammering away at the same things. And like, I mean, maybe that's a poor example because he's an incredibly diverse filmmaker these days, but like, I don't know, someone like yourself, where you're looking for new ways to challenge yourself all the time, ways to keep the art pure. At first, when I started doing looping, I got a bit of hate from people for sort of diluting the art form or kind of polluting it with ideas that aren't pure.
Polluting beatbox, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, oh, this is just technology. And then, you know, there were some comments about that, like that on the TED Talk, where like, what's this to do? How's this to do with the voice? Like, how's this? You know, this isn't. And I think I get with the technology now. These kind of negative comments are, look what they can do these days. Kind of comments. Like, no one says those particular words, but it's more like, oh, well, they've been able to do that for years. Who the fuck is they? Like, there is no they. Like, there's only a we. Like, you know, the iPhone. Say what you want about. Oh, this iPhone sucks. Like, does it? Could you make one?
Yeah.
Like Louis C.K.'s got a whole bit about this, and he's right. Like,
we are humans representing humans.
Like we are the ones that make the technology. Like, if you see something which even vaguely works, that's amazing that works. You know.
Is anyone doing the looping stuff that you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, there's loads now. I mean,
Ed Sheeran did all right off that. Like that kind of almost made.
I was chatting with Ed Sheeran the other day. I met him at this thing I was doing in LA.
Yeah.
And
who is he?
He's like
very popular.
Yeah, like really.
British singer, made it in America. He just sold out Madison Square Garden 3 days in a row.
Did he?
Yeah.
Shit.
He's there right now.
That's huge.
What does he do? Similar type live?
He started out as doing
awesome.
looping.
Wow.
Okay.
But he could sing. He's a really good singing voice and guitar as well. And he's blew up.
He sold out Madison Square Garden 3 times.
Yeah, 3 days. Yeah.
Incredible. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
No, I was chatting to him and he's like, yeah, I'm working with this producer, Rick Rubin. I was like, shut up, I know. Exactly.
Yeah,
I know who Rick Rubin is, but it's very nice of him to be so humble.
Yeah.
He's not being like, yeah, I'm working with Rick Rubin. He's still like downplaying it. No, he's a really nice guy.
So you're making this technology because you want other people to use it? or because you just want to create it?
Well, I need this technology to exist so that I can do what I want to do. But I was chatting to him about this technology because it turns out Rick Rubin has a way of working with Ableton which is this like
the
production software. And you can do kind of loopy things with it where he's got like, I think he's got, I don't know what the exact setup is, but it streams into Pro Tools somehow. So without getting too nerdy, what that means is he's into looping, which is really interesting because I met Herbie Hancock at TED and we really got on, and he's awesome, which is dope because you'd want him to be awesome, wouldn't you? Yeah. So like, and I went to his studio and I jammed with him for like 3 hours. So I guess I can die now. And like, and he goes, because we started talking because he uses a bit of looping in his sets when he's playing solo now, because he's been touring with like a band and now he's just doing things on his own. And like, and he's massively into technology, like as you would expect, I guess. You know, he's still kind of on the cutting edge. He's like, have you seen those like Leap motion devices where they sort of track your fingers? Yeah. Like, they're really dope. You can now sort of, you know, swipe at your screen kind of thing, and like,
I think I have.
They're really dope. Anyway, so he's trying to use them for music, or they sent him one to see if he could. But anyway, so he's into looping, so I started talking to him about it. But like, my plan, I guess, is to sort of make this thing work for me, give it to people like Johnny Greenwood, who I know does some looping, Imogen Heap, who is into looping. People like Ed Sheeran and Rick Rubin and people like that. That's the thing. Like, first try and give it to these pioneers and stuff because the thing is, I've got a theory about looping, which is kind of sort of kooky and not necessarily correct, but I kind of feel that looping is fundamental to what music is. In that, when you're making melodies, you're making things which loop in a way. They're things which iterate and which change over time, or change according to patterns over time. Yeah. Which music is just mathematical alterations upon a particular theme.
There's definitely formulas to music that help
exactly, and that's like, you know, you look at Bach and he's doing these sort of crazy sort of Mandelbrot sets of self-iterating musical inversions and stuff, and then you've got, you know, your sort of standard musical formulas which are all mathematically expressible. And I feel that looping, or not just looping, as in like, something goes round and round, which is what Ed Sheeran does, which is amazing that he's managed to use this. He's using the same loop pedal he was using when he started. But, you know, he's got the guitar and that's his main instrument of expression, I guess. But he doesn't need all this crazy stuff. But like, there's people like Tim Exile, who was my mentor in a way. And we have this like frenemy thing going on where we love what each other is doing and we love each other as people and we inspire each other. But like, he was doing what I was doing way before I was doing it. And I was inspired by him to do it because I was like, holy shit, you can make dance music in real time. And the music he was making at the time, this was like 2005, was like completely crazy, like breakcore, which is just this ridiculous music. You can't dance to it. Like, you see people just, you know, a room full of people on ketamine just falling over to it. You can't dance to it. So like,
it's really fast or just really hard?
Well, both, and also arrhythmical and insane and just impossible to follow, deliberately like obtuse music. And but he was making that kind of stuff, and I'm like, well, Jesus, if you can make that, I'm sure you can make dead simple kind of formulaic dance music. So I set out on a mission to try and do that. But like, he's working on his rig, I'm working on mine, Imogen Heap's working on hers. There's other people kind of more on the fringes doing stuff, like Onyx Ashanti, who is this guy from San Francisco originally, who now lives in Berlin, who's built like this 3D printed, head-mounted, like wrist-mounted sort of thing that he's got these controllers where he like senses movements, and he's blowing into this thing, and he's working with his fingers, and like all of his movement is going into. He's fucking crazy, but God bless him, he's a genius.
Would you do that stuff?
I would love to. I mean, this is like. You know, I'm so glad that people like him exist because he's eschewed any kind of mainstream path. He's like, no, I'm a creative individual with the ability to be a maker, to be a designer, to be a tester, to be an iterator, to be like a force of creativity and manufacturer. And he's like, well, I'm gonna iterate and build different versions of this thing and try and get it right. And the that he's trying to get right is something which he's had in his head for years. So I associate people with like people like him more than I do with like, you know, David Guetta or Steve Aoki, who's like, all Steve Aoki's done is kind of shout over a DJ set and then
Made millions.
and then jump into like a rubber dinghy and go over the ground. But fair enough, like he gets paid for making a crowd go crazy and he does it well, but it doesn't interest me. It's not my focus. Nor does what Razel does interest me particularly, because it's not. I mean, he's done it. Like he's a genius, you know.
You seem like you get bored easy.
Well,
like you talk about Radiohead reinventing themselves. I don't think you have to try to reinvent yourself. I think you have no choice, because you seem like you get bored.
Yeah, one of my friends said to me that I move on before anyone else has had a chance to understand what it was I was doing before.
Some of those creative people are like that, though.
Yeah, I guess.
I think you find something.
Oh, there's so many examples of people who. Well, David Bowie, for example. Yeah. Not that I could compare myself to David Bowie, but like deliberately changing what he does because he's bored with what he was doing. Yeah. He's turned on by something new now. You know. Yeah. You know, it's not.
You should just follow your heart the whole way through life, though. It will lead you the right way. I think. That's...
all the most interesting people. There you go. Well, you know.
Yeah, all of us.
Am I allowed to say that you used to be a banker? Am I allowed to say that on air?
Yeah, we just put our new website up, and I was trying to write my bio, and I was like, Brian moved to London and was in the financial industry, and then I was like, I wrote, Brian moved to London 12 years ago to be the greatest greedy banker that ever lived, and that's what I did. That's what I tried to do, but that was years ago. I'm changed now.
Yeah, you followed your heart at the time, and you follow it now.
I'm trying. Thanks to the Bulletproof guys. Yeah. When was the last time you performed, and when are you performing next? Because you seem to really enjoy performing. Like, you seem to really like connect with your audience, and it's like part comedy, and I don't know. You seem to be really living in the moment when you're on stage.
Yeah.
More so than like a DJ.
Yeah. Well, I've got a tour coming up next year because I'm just trying to finish off my album at the moment, and it's very different to what I've been doing before. Like, it's songs mostly. It's a 5-part album, so it's not a double album. It's like a 5-part album, but they're all like little EPs. Each one is a little project, because I was just kind of trying to make, like, I stand in front of all this technology and I'm like, right, what am I going to do? Do something and see where it leads me. And then I just sort of, which is what I always wanted to do, really. I always wanted to have this tech to allow me to just do stuff and not know what I was going to do, because that for me is the most fun. I love doing that in front of people, and having them involved in the creative process as much as possible. It's just that interests me. That's really fun. And so there's like 5 different projects, which I didn't mean to be the exact projects they are. Like, one's a kind of Ibiza, I guess. Maybe I was inspired by like getting married in Ibiza. Maybe just thinking about it and stuff like that. But like, it's very kind of chilled and Balearic.
Do you sing?
Yeah. It's sort of Balearic. It's Balearic house mostly, but not house kind of like bumped it. It's all very kind of more on the.
Is the whole album with your mouth?
No.
So okay.
So
you managed to get the ideas from your head into beats with using actual. Yeah, like all of. Okay, so there's a Balearic one. There's balls to the wall dance music one, which is fucking nuts. There's a one which is like a sort of more angular, twisted kind of electronic kind of thing. There's one which is like just songs, like singer-songwriter stuff, but some of the production on that's really ambitious. Some of it's more stripped back. And then there's another one. What is the other one? The other one is this kind of crazy sort of psychedelic, futuristic space journey thing, which turns into 90s hip hop and then turns into like a sort of techno thing. It doesn't make sense. But like, all of these things can be listened to in a particular situation in one go. But you couldn't just belched in front of a million people. But like, you wouldn't necessarily listen to the whole 2 hours of music in the same stretch unless you really wanted to. Yeah. But I kind of figured that if you're going to make music, if you're going to release a music as product, or even as art, like, it's there for consumption, as in, not like to make money off it, although it helps to kind of define your audience, but like, it helps to group things in such a way that they can be listened to in one sitting. Where like, I think my career has suffered slightly because no one has known what they were coming to see until they came to see it. And maybe they've only seen one video of me on YouTube, that kitchen thing. So they come thinking, oh, well, this will be a sort of an hour of funny beatbox things. And then I do balls to the wall dance music for an hour. And they're like, well, that wasn't what I expected. I don't really like dance music. I didn't really enjoy that. Yeah. Some people who've seen just my kitchen thing or a couple of other videos, just the comedy ones, will come and see me do a set where it's standing room only. It's 10 o'clock at night. Everyone's drunk. I do balls to the wall dance music.
but they happen to love balls to the wall dance music, and they're like, that's fucking great. Some people who have only seen me do balls to the wall dance music videos, and then they come along and they have a great time, but maybe they miss the comedy stuff slightly, but maybe I do some. So there's always been a few people at every gig who've been like, well, I didn't quite get what I wanted.
Yeah.
And
that's what good artists should do, though. A good artist should make you uncomfortable.
I guess so,
right?
but now I've started leaving the beatbox till the end because that's what most people have come for anyway. So that's my encore, and then people that have come for that leave happy.
Everyone's satisfied.
And I like that better because then I haven't started out being like, well, this is what defined me originally, and this is what I've moved on to. You kind of start with the kind of show. I start with the show that I want to do, and then at the end, I sort of do the thing which is more stripped back, and it's more powerful that way. I like it. It's fun. It's fun that way. It always leaves on a really good feeling. But like.
And it's always live when you do it. Like when you perform, it's always live.
Yeah, like I don't start with any samples. I guess that's maybe what makes me unique. But I mean, God, there's people like Dub FX as well, who is doing really well in Eastern Europe, like really well. Like he's huge in Eastern Europe. And he's starting to break in other places as well. He's from Australia and he lived here for a while. But he's kind of on this very kind of spiritual tip of, eyes open, progressive kind of worldview kind of thing. Writing lyrics, writing songs. He doesn't improvise. He does the same songs every night, but they're brilliant songs. And, he makes albums and stuff like that. And I'm more trying to get towards that side of things
so people know what they're going to see.
Well, not that they necessarily know what they're going to see, but when they get there, it's better. To the point where it's not me trying to use bits of other people's technology to try and do something that sounds like dance music, or trying to do comedy to people who are standing up, which never really works. I do comedy to people who are sitting down. Like if there's seats in the room, then I do comedy. If they're standing up, maybe I'll drop a couple of stupid gags, but it's not a comedy set. If it's...
So you're learning your craft though, you're not just like stubborn and like, I'm going to do this. You're like, okay, you're in the moment, like as you said, you assess the situation.
Yeah, it's just about judging it. I mean, like I've always been one to sort of judge things in the moment because that's just how I like. I mean, I'm inspired by people like Reggie Watts, for example, who's like a genius. Yeah. And he's on a kind of like sort of psychedelic tip, I guess, on the sort of, I mean, he's not exclusively that, but the journeys that he goes on are very kind of, introverted sort of ramblings of utter genius, where he just kind of drifts from character to character, goes from social commentary to sort of character playing to things that you can't quite define, that are mixtures of things put together. And he's got these set pieces that he uses which you couldn't really define. You could write essays on the stuff he does. It's brilliant. And he's now really breaking in America, and he's like a looper who was doing looping when I was doing it. Jamie Liddell is a looper who was doing stuff before I was doing it. He doesn't loop that much anymore as a raison d'etre. He now more does kind of soul singing, kind of like a sort of white Al Green kind of thing. But like,
Is the world overlooped right now? Are there too many loopers?
No, there's not enough.
Joe Driscoll?
Joe Driscoll is another one. There's loads of people, and there's loads of like sort of less well-known people doing looping. There's a looping machine that's just come out, which is the best one that's ever come out. It's still not great, and mine is better, but that's going to open up doors because people, as soon as you have the tools to do something with, people can start doing interesting things.
And that's a live, real-time looper.
Yep.
All the stuff you're talking about, all the tech. Okay.
Like I don't use samples
at all.
At all. So
That's
I start with nothing. I always start with nothing. Even when there's things which I do know I'm going to do, they always turn up different every time because I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, and I get a different feeling urge when I'm doing something what I feel like doing a more down-tempo version of this song.
Have you seen that kit? I forget what it's called, but you can plug it into your computer, and you plug it into like a lemon and an apple or something, and when you touch it,
you can make anything a controller.
A controller.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
You can rig up their stairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Have you seen that thing that what's his name? That rapper guy, Flow Rider. He's brought out this laser control device.
Was that a joke? I thought that was a joke.
No,
and he's
it's
like,
real.
Oh, the advert's ridiculous.
But I saw like they brought that out like 3 years ago, and somehow the company must have got a lot of VC funding because some rich idiot from Silicon Valley has probably gone, that's a great idea, made a ridiculous Coke decision and decided that like this laser device needs to have like take it to a party. Anyone can use it. He probably bought one, like had some party and like, managed to get off with some girl because she was like playing with it and like decided that everyone should have one. And so like Flow Rider's done this ridiculous video.
That is the saddest thing ever. I thought it was a joke. It's
and then deadmau5 threw it out of a window and videoed it. And then, the guys running it have been like, okay, well, let's get back at him. And they've done this video where they've taken deadmau5's likeness. And have you seen this shit?
No.
It's amazing. They've taken his likeness,
winning.
and the slogan is like, so simple, only even a mouse could play it. And he's suing. It's just fucking
Sad
hilarious.
as
Deadmau5 gets himself into some situations. Did you hear that thing that happened to him in Vegas? He, some really, really, really rich guy offered him 250 grand to play Living on a Prayer in his set.
Wow.
And Deadmau5 was like, well, it's 250 grand, all right? It was like the owner of the casino said, hey, this really rich guy wants you to play. He says he's going to give you 250 grand. Apparently it was a serious offer. Deadmau5 has gone and done it. He's gone to the rich guy. The guy's bouncers were like, fuck off. And so like William Morris, you know, who are the Deadmau5's agent, are now suing this dude for 250 grand.
Who owns the casino because he's the one that told him, or the other guy.
I don't know. Everyone's suing each other, but it's just this amazing. And there's video of it live as well. I don't know, like.
What do you think?
I find that funny.
What do you think? What do you think of Deadmau5?
He's brilliant.
Has he helped the whole?
Well, he gets hate as
industry?
well for the same reasons. Of like, well, look what they can do these days. He did that. Like, you know, people can say that he's like super novelty. People could say that, well, the music isn't that good, or they could say that like there's nothing that innovative about it. No, it's like, you know, I mean, it's cliche to say, but like his earlier work. He did this thing called Project 56, which was before he was like really well known. It was this kind of collection of experiments, I guess. And all of them were brilliant, forward-thinking little experiments in what was possible with electronic music. Not that any of them were like really inventive, but they were just little sketches of ideas and nothing more really, no songs or anything. But it's brilliant, it's really good. I mean, it's hard to know what to do with it. That's why it's like, he called it Project, I guess, rather than anything else. But like, you know, there's a track on there called Squirrels, and it's just him going, I fucked a squirrel roll on the ass, I fucked a squirrel. I don't know, he's a joker, he's a fool, but he's, in the sense that, I'm not saying he's a fool, I mean, he's like, you know, he's a geezer, he's like,
doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah, he's a good laugh, and he was, what is he, he was a web developer, I think, like a graphics guy, and super creative, never thought music was going to take off for him, but suddenly it did, and he was like, well, fuck it, I'm going to run with it.
Or something like. He was just an internet gamer, made a song about World of Warcraft, and then changed the lyrics to about females, and then he made it, and then he's a millionaire.
There you go. You just got to run with it. Like, I was lucky in a sense that I was in the right place at the right time, where
YouTube was just coming out.
Yeah. Beatbox was new and seemed superhuman, which it doesn't seem now, because there's kids doing it in every X Factor around the world. Yeah. I was young and hungry for success. I had lots of free time. I was at university. Yeah. You know, am I in as desirable a situation now in terms of the ability to sort of, I mean, I guess I am. You know, I saved up loads of money to spend on making software. So I guess I've always tried to engineer the circumstances to get the kind of opportunities that I wanted to do. But I think I'm going to have to find some like, I don't think VC funding would work for me, but probably a Kickstarter project to try and sort of make a product of what I'm doing.
Do you want to start a technology company? Is that your next move, or is that?
Well, that's a huge thing to try and do.
But that's what you're doing, right? With this,
I'm kind of running a software company at the moment, which is, I've got like 3 coders working for me, and I'm spending the amount that a software company would spend on R&D. Wow. Which is fucking insane considering I'm the only user. So I will want to see some remuneration for this at some point very soon. And I'm gonna, the trouble with Kickstarter projects and stuff like that is that actually with Kickstarter specifically, if you're not the coder involved, you can't do the project. So there's others like Indiegogo and stuff like that where you don't even have to reach your target. So they're much more laissez-faire in terms of their rules. But I think I'll do that and I'll offer a product and I have a goal in sight, which will be a kind of very, very reduced version of what I've got. But it's a huge undertaking to make a piece of production ready, like release ready software. Like,
but you would sell this to the top, like elite professionals, or would you want to sell this to?
No, that'd be a testing phase that I'd do anyway. Okay. With the current system, but or just to sort of, I mean, yeah, I suppose as a result of the sort of PR strategy of selling what I've done, I would do that. I'd make sure that it wasn't just me that was the only proponent of it.
You should do equity crowdfunding. That's the latest thing. We just had Max Kaiser in here from Russia today.
Well, they've just relaxed the rules, haven't they?
Yeah, when
be a registered investor.
UK, you can do it. Yeah, so you do a Kickstarter, but they get shares in your company, and they also fund it, and then you give away 10% of your company. And that
they've had that on Kickstarter for a while, where you can nominally, I suppose, be the, you know, they say if you give £10,000, then you can be on the board of directors. So,
okay, I think it's still illegal in America. There's a couple weird things, but I know you can't do it in the UK.
America's weird.
Yeah, America's crazy that way. So for you, like next year, the year after that, I mean, I know you don't sound like the kind of guy that has like these big life goals. You seem like you go wherever you want to go. But is there like, I want to sell out Madison Square Garden for 3 days, or is it like I want to do strictly a comedy show, or I don't know? Do you have like weird goals?
My goals are on hold for now while I get the tech sorted.
Really?
And when I get the album finished, I'm just looking straight at the road ahead. Rather than trying to think of the ultimate goal. Because, I mean, like, I suppose my ultimate goals are these sort of impossible, unreachable dreams, which are largely to do with, well, partly to do with things to do with luck. But I don't know, I'm not
definitely
gambling.
Reachable. No, there's no such thing as luck. I don't believe in that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I hate the idea of gambling. I think I wouldn't try and stop people from doing it, but there's something icky about the idea that there is luck, because there isn't.
There isn't.
Mathematically,
No
there isn't.
coincidence.
Yeah, well, coincidence is a sort of emergent property of chaos. You know,
Okay.
it's your subjective view of two coherent events. It's you know, the perception of coherence in a system. You perceive order where there isn't any.
Yeah.
So, I mean, well, that's so where people see luck, it's a misnomer. But like, you make your own luck in the sense that you have to
Put yourself
engineer
in
the
the right-
circumstances
yeah.
to get yourself lucky. So that's what engineer the circumstances to get yourself lucky. It sounds like dating tips. But you can kind of, I mean, right now there's a few aphorisms that I like to sort of try and live by at the moment, which are, I guess I'm building a better mousetrap. I thought you heard that, like, build a better mousetrap and the world will beat a path to your door. I don't know who said it, but it's the idea that like you just have something better and you can go from there.
Is that your music or your software?
Both, I guess. I mean, I suppose there's just something about just trying to think content first, do good stuff, do stuff that's worthy of promoting, or what's the point? You know, and yeah, in terms of like having the competitive advantage in the sense of trying to build myself tech, which allows me to do my ideas, to execute them, and like, yeah. So I suppose for now, I'm kind of trying to put aside. Oh, and the other aphorism is like, it was Abraham Lincoln said, if I had, I'll probably mess up the quote, but it was something like, if I had 5 hours to chop down the tallest tree in the forest, I would spend the first 3 hours sharpening my axe. There you go, which is an amazing phrase. It's like, just prepare, you know, make sure you're prepared. So that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm trying to make sure I have the tech and make sure I have an album which is of a quality so that I can sort of, and then I'll start thinking about what I can do with all the stuff and have a kind of asset-led
So the tech is like the bottleneck for you. Until you get the tech right, you can't express what you want to express.
Yeah, because I suppose what I have in my head is the idea of, which is what I've always had, I suppose, going on stage with no prior idea of what it is I'm going to do and just going for it. And people like Reggie Watts do that. People like Tim Exile do that. There's not really very many others that do.
Maybe that's why you're motivated, because it's like beatboxing, there's too many people in it now. When you started, there wasn't very many that did it. So you're just following that, the front of the wave kind of thing.
Well, not even. It might seem that way,
okay.
but it's more that, like, I don't know, like with some artists or companies, perhaps there's like a contrivance about the way that they innovate, in that they're just trying. Like Philips, for example, keep kind of making things that aren't necessarily useful, like that kind of backlight TV thing where they've got like a strip of LED around the side of the screen that lights the wall behind the TV in accordance with what's on the screen. It's not useful, but it seems innovative. They're like, wow. But or maybe some bands kind of want to try and, you know, get with it. Like will.i.am, for example, has always kind of seen what's on the underground and kind of, you know, echoed that and sort of, you know, used that in his music and stuff, because he's not really innovating necessarily, but he's just being the first to market with a new style. I hate to use business terminology in music, but like, I can't think of any other way to explain it. But like, with me, I think it's more the case that it's the same idea that it's been the whole way through, where I just want to reduce the amount of time and effort and application and thought between conception and realization of a musical idea. So if there's something in my head, I want it to be in the world.
Does most of your new album come from live performances where you've got
inspiration? It's all started on the Beardytron, as it's called. Like some of the songs on there, one of the songs in particular is one that I've had in my head for like 15 years. Jesus. And I just never got round to recording it, but it's just been going around and around my head. So I was like, well, now I've got this Beardytron thing, maybe I'll try and do it using that. And I've got this guitar that can become anything, because there's this kind of guitar effects box I've got, which can turn each string of your guitar into a different instrument. So you can have like a bass and a violin and all this kind of, or any different guitar. So I just used that one guitar, my piece of equipment that I've built, and just kind of did the whole thing in one 2-hour long experimental take. And then I kind of chop, snip in my laptop, you know. Yeah. And then I've got all the material I need, and then it's just a matter of like doing a jigsaw. And that's how I've done most of the tracks. Some of these, like some of the 5 EP project things that are on this album are just long pieces of contiguous dance music where I didn't know what I was going to do, and it's just a kind of journey where I didn't know what I was going to do, and I can change the tempo and resample things so they end up as these kind of mulched up, chewed up versions of what I put in the first place, and things morph and change. And then some of them are kind of ideas where it's been a really convoluted process where I'll start on the Beardytron, and then the idea will kind of sort of blossom, and I'll be like, oh, well, that could be a song, I guess. And I kind of start kind of, you know, spitting lyrics in the way that like Jay-Z has said he does his Rain Man thing, where he like paces the floor and just goes and just gets the rhythm first. And Imogen Heap writes in the same way. A lot of people do. It's where you have like, you get the general feeling you want to put across, and you let the melody flow from you, and then you kind of think, well, what am I trying to say? And then you find lyrics that fit to it, and you're like, yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I meant. And it's a kind of interesting process of drawing out of you these kind of poetic ideas, and you know, rather than contriving it by sitting down and write the way Rihanna will write a song. Well, say Rihanna doesn't write shit, but like her team will sit there and go, right, what is popular right now? Text messages. Everyone loves text messages. Let's do a song about text messages. You know, so like, rather than kind of trying to, I mean, that's the other thing that I'm trying to do as well, is to try and make sure that I don't contrive anything. And I think I've been guilty of that in the past. Well, I've done that as a raison d'etre. I was like, my last album was completely novelty, and it was done, every song was a project, in the sense that it was like, I sat there, it was me and Tom Middleton, and we sat there and tried to sort of think, well, what should we do now? I know, and then we write this kind of manifesto of what this song's going to be. And then we do it, and it would be something stupid like, you know, we'll mix Bollywood with Eastern European vibes and put it to dubstep and then do it. And it just made this kind of very throwaway sort of novelty album, which I don't like anymore. Some people still really like it, that's great. It didn't do incredibly well. What did we sell, like 11,000 copies or something like that? Which like, that's a big number of things, generally, like of beans, that would be like a big tub of beans. But like, it's not amazing in this. It's not a platinum record, but like, I don't like it anymore because of that novelty value. And this new album I've done has no novelty tracks on it. There's no like joke tracks, because, you know, I've been writing songs since I was 5, so I've got no interest in being a novelty artist. And that's another thing. Like, when I started this whole thing, beatbox has always seemed to me to be very very novelty. Even Rahzel doing what he does, making these big kind of speeches on beatbox interviews he's done, being like, look, it's got to be from the heart. And yeah, what he does is from the heart, but there is an inherent novelty value in beatboxing because it's a performance art, and it's a performance art which you can do anything with. So I think beatbox as a constituent is interesting. It's like, you know, it's a bit like being a chef but restricting yourself to chicken. I'm a chicken chef. That's what I do. I make things with chicken. No herbs, no spices. Just the best chicken I can find. I let the meat speak for itself. No, we don't cook it. You just eat it raw. You have to capture it yourself. It's a farm. I run a farm. But you can come and eat my chickens. Don't use any. Don't kill them first.
You have a love-hate relationship with beatbox, definitely.
I think it's nice as a constituent. So it's like, I like the idea of being a cook who is like, it feels like stone soup. You know that old it's like, you know that old story. It's like was it like a wolf tries to eat an old woman, and the other woman's like, wait, don't eat me. I'm going to make you the best soup in the world. Actually, is that how the story starts? No, it isn't. There's no wolves, are there?
I think the fact that like everyone's like, we don't have anything to make soup, and then someone's like, I'm gonna make stone soup, and they're like, what? And then the kid makes a stone soup, and it's like, oh, we could really use, and then someone's like, I've got some celery, and then doesn't everybody contribute?
I think there's several permutations of the story. One's like a wolf trying to eat an old woman. The other one's like a sort of,
I don't know,
an evil salesman comes to a house or something, and he's like trying to sell them the stone. It's like, and then that one's guarding against salesmen. There's another one guarding against like wolves. I don't know, but it's about the idea that like, yeah. So the story is like, it's not the stone that makes the soup; it's all the other ancillary ingredients.
Yeah.
So like, I think the beatbox is interesting because it enables your ideas to flow freely. I don't think it's interesting for any other real reason. I mean, the mouth and the face are interesting in the fact that you can make this vast array of noises, but I don't think you should be like, well, let's see what I can make with my mouth. I mean, I was like that for a while, for a good long while. I was like, well, let's make my entire career about what I can do with my mouth. And I've just been like, well, that's a novelty career. That's like
that's like free running would be boring if I only did it in the same place every time I did it.
Right, but what can I do with Sainsbury's car park?
Exactly. So eventually, there is limited creativity, but you would get bored and be like, I could probably come up with something in a year. I'll find one more thing. Then it'll take me 2 years to find one more thing. So whereas my joy is going to new environments every time. I've got new canvas to paint on every single time. Whereas with beatboxing, I'm sure that's why you.
Do you get obsessed with the amount of turns in the air you can do and stuff like that? Or is it more about the distances you can jump and the?
It's a mixture of everything. It's whatever I wake up and feel like doing that day. Do you know what I mean? Some days you appreciate other things more than that. But for me, if I wasn't able to go to new environments and go on different walls and things, it would get boring so quickly. With that, beatboxing you've got the same set of.
You've got to be enthused about what you do.
Yeah,
if you're not enthused about what you do,
it's
why
obvious.
would anyone else be enthused about what you do?
It's obvious. Yeah.
But I can get so much I can train on my own and come out of it feeling great. Whereas with beatboxing, maybe at the start you do it on your own in a bathroom or something, and you enjoy that. But eventually, if you've not,
they're very similar in that respect. Yeah. Like there are things which you do on your own which are kind of frowned upon as or they were. Actually, free running and beatboxing came into prominence into the public sphere at roughly the same time.
Yeah.
Like they were both things which were seen as irritating or dangerous or something.
Yeah.
Beatboxing was never dangerous, but you know what I mean? It's it's on the fringes, and then finally now it's kind of accepted as a good vent for creativity and energy and stuff like that. There's kids. There's a guy, Gavin Tite is his name, and he's a beatboxing priest, and he ran the biggest beatboxing forum site in the world, and he says he saved lives using beatboxing because there's kids who have had nothing else in their lives, and the community, the beatbox community, has saved them.
But they can sit at home in the projects, whatever, and then do this.
If it's a force of positivity, it gives kids something to do. In that sense, it's similar to free running.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I got to hit you with the London Real question, which is where we usually finish things up, which is the advice question. You could probably ask him because you know this question, right? I'll ask him.
Yeah, you go for it.
All right, if you can make a phone call to the 20-year-old Darren Foreman and give that young man a bit of advice, what would you tell him?
I'm not good with non-questions. I'm not good with questions which are impossible.
Tell yourself to work on them.
Okay, what was the 20-year-old?
I don't know.
Daz
What would you say?
What was the 20-year-old Daz doing at that time then?
I can't engage with the question because it's a useless exercise. Well, because you never know, do you? If I'd given myself one piece of advice, maybe my life wouldn't have taken the route it's taking.
Yeah.
If I'd have said to myself, don't go the software route, it's incredibly expensive and then you have to try and form a software company, then I don't know what's going to come of this. This might be brilliant. I could end up forming a software company that would do really well, or I could get bought out by one of the larger software companies. I could say to myself, try and make more of an art form out of beatboxing. I don't know whether that would work. I could say to myself, focus on looping. I could say to myself, form a band. Any of these kind of things, I sometimes think, well, should I have done this? I don't know. So I don't know what advice I give to myself. I genuinely have no idea.
Good, that's an answer in itself.
How would you know what's appropriate advice to give yourself?
I get a range of answers. Some people say what you said. Some people said I wouldn't change anything or I wouldn't be
no
here.
Regrets.
Some people always say very things you would expect, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. Or just most people's younger selves are so stressed about the future.
I think I'd say smoke less weed.
Really? Okay.
Really? Yeah.
Well, because that's...
You're a musician. Are drugs an integral part of the creative process in your mind?
Yeah, did they help you with that?
No, but I thought they did.
Weed didn't help? Okay.
No, I don't think smoking a lot of weed has really inhibited my success or my happiness, but it hasn't helped. It's a means of... It's an unhealthy means of release because... it's a psychotropic substance and it's not that helpful. I don't know. I think that ecstasy is brilliant. Not ecstasy necessarily. MDMA is brilliant if you use it once, maybe twice, maybe whenever you need a little top up of a reminder of how happy you can be, of the fact that happiness is is just a reaction
State
to a
of mind,
certain
isn't it?
hormone
Yeah.
being released into it's serotonin reuptake in your neurons, and it gives you this feeling of happiness, and it directs that feeling of happiness at whatever you look at. That's the best glass I've ever seen, man. That's brilliant. That means that you can affect your state of mind by pure force.
And then
will
it's all
alone.
perception. Yeah.
It's all perception. Yeah. Like, so I mean, I think MDMA is great, but you should take it like once just to show yourself. Like, I got out of depression when I was a teenager by trying ecstasy and being like, holy shit, I was depressed. I had no idea. Yeah. I was like, this is how happy I could be. Fucking brilliant. I need to change my life. And I made loads of decisions. Yeah. So like,
they're using it for PTSD guys coming back from the wars.
I heard on Joe Rogan the guy was on it.
Yeah, we had Rick Doblin here as well.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, and they do 3 sessions.
Well, SSRIs are now a standard sort of, prescribed depression.
But that's different than like an MDMA.
Medication.
They do like an MDMA therapy session where they have a therapist, they give the MDMA to the soldier, they talk to him for the next 4 hours, they come back 3 weeks later, and they do like 3 sessions, and then that's usually all they need.
They're really trying to develop it. They spent years. He said they spent like 4 years just trying to get some legally. They're trying to follow the legal routes to get it in America as like actual scientific practices, and it took them 4 years to get it from Canada there legally, so they could do the experiments with it, so they can develop it to be used in hospitals and things like that as an actual service.
But they're doing it now.
And
it's like against the pharmaceutical industry that says, here's a drug you have to take the rest of your life. With this MDMA studies, they're like, you're going to do it 3 times and then you're going to move on. Like you said, a periodic.
It has hugely beneficial effects on people with depression or anxiety or stuff like that.
What about mushrooms as well? Because it's a similar thing with that, the psilocybin in that. How it's people like 95% of people that took it said it was in the top 5 most important experiences of their life.
Yeah, it's a slightly different drug, as in I think the MDMA shows these PTSD guys it lets them forgive themselves, shows them that they can be happy. Yeah. I think
you can have a religious experience on MDMA, which is better than a religious experience. Well, I say better than a religious experience. It's like it supersedes that in the sense, not supersedes, that's the wrong word. It's a different category of realization. Like they did that Drugs Live program recently. Did you guys see that shit? Yeah. It was like on Channel 4, and it was like Peter Sissons or whatever, like hosting. He was like, welcome to Drugs Live. People are going to take drugs. Be warned. Keep your children in bed. And just
and they just like, observe people on
some like
drugs.
B-list celebrities just like on pills, being like, I feel brilliant.
Actually on TV. This is on TV. I'm good.
And it was like, it was all like for medical purposes or whatever. So
that's great.
But it was, it got like, it caused this big Twitter storm of people, this swarm of indifference being like, well, this is bullshit. But it was interesting because they had like a vicar on there, like a female vicar who was like, doesn't matter if she was female, just a vicar. And she was asked about it as she was hired. They were like, well, and afterwards, I think they were like, did you have a religious experience?
What did she take?
Ecstasy.
Okay.
And they were like, did you have a religious experience? Did you meet God? She's like, no.
Okay.
But that was brilliant. It's like.
So you think it can be useful, but periodically? I mean, you must see people in clubs that use it every weekend.
There's any drug can be misused. Like most drugs are a poison in the wrong dosage. All drugs are a poison in the wrong dosage. Everything is a poison in the wrong dosage. Like a bit of iron's great. Drop an anvil on someone, it's not too good. But like, So but maybe smoke less weed, I'd say, to my former self. I mean, like, it doesn't increase your productivity. It just makes you dopey, and it doesn't really, like, time was I'd have a deadline and be like, right, I really need to be creative. I'll smoke some weed and I'll get the job done better and quicker and more creatively. And I'd listen to and I've had this conversation with loads of people where they're like, yeah, no, it's always the same shit. You wake up the next day and you've like changed one knob for an hour and it hasn't.
Do you think that could be the English weed though? Because I swear in California and LA that some of the most productive people, they smoke constantly.
Depends on the person.
Graham Hancock was in here and he smoked for 15 years.
Then he gave it up using ayahuasca.
Yeah,
well, exactly. The ayahuasca, exactly. Yeah. He actually talked about that for the first time here like a year ago, and we were just like, whoa. But he said he's a better writer since he got off of it.
Yeah.
He said he thought he was being more creative, but he really
like David Bowie and cocaine. Like he said similar things about that period of like. He was really pleased that when he got clean, he realized he didn't need the drugs to make the music. But I don't know, I mean, there's a sense in which if you spin yourself out to that extent and widen your horizons using mind-expanding drugs, and you widen your range of experience and understanding using these kind of devices, if you want to call them that, then you can have that sort of mental landscape there to access whenever you want it. Like, which is the same thing I'm talking about ecstasy, where you have those experiences, and then you know that those experiences are possible. So then you know how much more happy you can be with acid.
When you get the
how much more
message, hang up the
psychedelic you can be.
phone.
Huh?
Terence McKenna said, when you get the message, hang up the phone. Like,
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Take them, get the message, leave it.
I haven't heard that quote.
Yeah.
I listen to Terrence all the time.
Maybe it wasn't Terence, but
No,
it was a good one.
It could have been. All right, I was gonna
That's better than what's his name, the guy from the '60s who was insane and damaging, urged people to turn on, tune in, and drop out.
Dennis Leary.
Yeah, he was like, just keep taking it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Stay on the phone. Be
That
fine.
was a crazy time, 60s. All right, I'm just going to finish out this
No, not
advice
Dennis
question.
Leary.
No,
Dennis Leary's the
Timothy
guy that
Leary.
ate Bill Hicks. Timothy Leary, yeah.
Dennis Leary.
Dennis Leary.
Last bit of advice question. What's the best advice you've received ever?
Stop it. You'll make it worse.
Stop what?
Whatever it is, stop it. You'll make it worse.
Okay.
It's always good advice. Like,
That's good advice.
you know, which is, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's what we're talking about with the drug stuff.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
you know, it's fine. Leave it. It's fine. Put it down.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have a tendency to be kind of obsessive and anxious and neurotic. So I think, I mean, I'm Jewish. What are you going to do? So it's like, you know, stop it. Like, it's, you know, there's a...
Art is never finished, in a way.
There's a brilliant Zen quote, which is, I'm going to fuck this up as well. Nothing is ever perfect.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever finished.
Yeah.
And there's a third thing as well.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
Do you have a problem walking away from a piece of work? Like,
Yeah. Perfectionism is a curse if you let it be. You have to. I suppose you have to exercise judgment about knowing when something is finished. That's kind of what I've been making with this technology. So you're making everything real time. You don't have the option to go back and fiddle.
Okay.
Because it's, you know, especially with like a piece of art, like you can drive yourself crazy trying to perfect something where actually the imperfections are what's brilliant.
sure.
And that's part of sort of Japanese like artistic theory.
I
as
think
well.
aim for like 95% satisfaction and then move on to something else and let it go. Like no art is ever finished, it's just left.
A mix is never finished, merely abandoned, which is the same thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
Isn't Dre still working on that album? The Relapse album? Like it's been like 10
really?
or 15 years and he just won't.
I'm waiting on
release this
Eminem's new album.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know,
coming
he's
out
not really
soon.
done much.
It's out, isn't it?
Is it out now?
I saw it on iTunes. It might be pre-order. I don't know. All right, last bit of that question is to the 20-year-old listening now on iTunes or on YouTube who wants to be like you someday or who wants to get in the music industry. What do you tell them? What's your advice to them?
Get a job. No, I don't know. Don't expect the music industry to exist. Don't expect it. Firstly, don't expect it to exist at all in 5 years' time in the state that it currently is at the moment. It's in a huge state of flux. Because the music industry classically was built around, I say classically like it's been a thing, like in the 20s, records became big business. They remained big business. All the different formats that came out were big business, and now there is no such thing as physical media. The bottom is dropping out of DVD sales. It's completely disappeared in physical formats, really, apart from sort of collector's edition vinyl and stuff like that. People are releasing albums on USB keys with extra content on them because it's the only way to sell any kind of physical device or medium or whatever. You know, the whole industry that was hinged around those barriers to entry, with this whole hierarchy of administration and sort of means of production about vinyl. And then CDs and then tape, but all things that are hard to produce, that doesn't exist anymore. So music is back to being this kind of ephemeral thing. So in that sense, don't expect there to be a music industry. Expect to have to fight for your ability to earn off it. Expect it to be a hobby. Work harder than you would ever think you need to. Don't discount luck in the sense that if you happen to chance upon something that gets big or gets you recognition, you need to pounce on that and make the most that you can out of it. I'm not advocating being like a one-hit wonder or anything, but sometimes you have no choice. Sometimes you just have to work with what you've got, and then build from there, and that's a mission. I'm still learning about how to navigate this industry. It's a weird industry, and it's full of shit. What was it? Hunter S. Thompson said the music industry is a shallow money trench where wolves run free and good men die like dogs, I think is the quote. And then he's like, there's also a negative side. So like, yeah. And it's worse now than it was when he was doing it, in a sense. Like, there's a Zappa quote where, you know, it's like an interview where he's talking about the music industry as it stands in the late 70s, early 80s, and he's like, well, in the late 60s, no one knew what all this music these crazy kids were listening to was, and so the record execs were like, well, hey, these guys are doing well on their local scene, give them $1 million, see what happens. Well, that seemed to work, great. Then by the late 70s, you know, the kids who had been, you know, working as office juniors, when youth culture was reaching a sort of maturation point, thought they knew what was cool and they knew what dictated coolness, so they started meddling. It's the same thing that happened in the sort of viral marketing industry in the sort of mid 2000s, where you saw the clients meddling. Where I mean, this is an experience I've had where, you know, I've done sort of advertising stuff and like, it just gets icky because people are trying to, it's a clusterfuck. Everyone's trying to affect what the outcome is going to be. And really, if you're going to make good art, not that advertising can never genuinely be good art, because it's by necessity manipulative and an evil use of the magical powers.
I think there's a pure way to do it, but I think 99% of the time.
Yeah, but if you're going to make good art, it needs to be one person's idea.
Yeah.
Or at least a group of people's idea that work well as a unit. You can't throw a team together and expect it to work. So like, that's why you get shit art.
And
one of the reasons you get shit art.
Will you make money off your new album, or is it just something you do for your own creative process to stay relevant? Or is it hard to make money off?
Am I going to sorry? Am I going to make money off my new album?
Off your new album?
No, not really. I mean, even if even if it sells millions of copies, you still won't make that much. But you make money off publishing now, because people have always made money off publishing just because, you know, radio plays and syncs and stuff. If you get something synced to a film or something like that, which is something I've had in the past, that can get you some money. But in terms of record sales, iTunes gives you a very small percentage. Spotify gives you next to nothing. You know, so it's well known now that like selling music doesn't get me. Expect to make your money out of live income, I think is one thing. You have to have a live show. I mean, there's alternative models where your YouTube channel can earn you money, it can earn you enough to make a living. You can have sort of, there's a new thing called Patreon. And I don't know if it's the only site like it, but it's the only one I've seen, but there's probably others, where it's a bit like Kickstarter, where it's crowdfunding model, but it's an ongoing crowdfunding model where you become a patron of a particular producer of content. So you could do any video you upload.
Oh yeah.
I'm thinking of getting involved with it actually for a project I'm doing, which is this kind of crazy sort of magazine show nonsense, using all this tech and all these stupid ideas with people I work with and stuff, just to make just a crazy show. But like, how do we fund this thing? Like, you know, we can't charge entry on the door because we want to do it in a small studio environment. So like, yeah, you either get sponsors or you get a crowdfunding model. So just be prepared to be innovative, I suppose, is the sort of very trite way of putting the standard piece of advice that's given to people wanting to be in the music industry these days. It's an industry in a state of flux that may not even exist in 5 years' time.
Yeah, that's a damn truth. That's good advice. That's good advice. Guys, we could probably talk for hours. Tim, did I miss anything? Or did I even
Did not.
ask?
No, it was good. Great talk.
It's kind of psychedelic being here and just like listening to all this stuff, right?
It's so interesting, man. So much to learn from every guest. It's like...
I don't think I've ever said so many words in the space of an hour.
No, it was great.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see like what goes on in your mind. Your creative process must be crazy. I mean, you seem like the kind of guy that wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, you know, for a song. And
yeah, sleeping can be difficult.
Yeah, I believe you. How do people get a hold of you? You're on Twitter. How do people buy your album when it comes out? All that good stuff.
You can find my album on the internet. I'm available on the internet.
Okay, well said. It's always weird when people are like, you can find me on.
Yeah. That's not even a thing anymore, is it? Google.
Yeah, Google and you're done.
Yeah, just ask your phone. Find me Beardyman. Certainly.
You never really went through Beardyman as a why you're called that. And do you ever shave?
There's no story. I had a beard. My friend was like, what do you want to be on this flyer? And then I got a text message from this other friend saying like, oi, Beardyman, which was a thing that he called me at the time. So I was like, Beardyman. But it turned out to be for like every flyer ever, which was possibly a mistake because I don't really have a beard. So.
But you're happy with the handle?
No, it's shit. But it's memorable though.
It is memorable.
But it's kind of Trey's descriptions breach because it's, you know, people are like, why don't you have a beard, man? I'm like, why don't your mum have a beard? Fuck you. So, you know.
When you first hear it, you're like, what the hell? But after you hear it about 10 times, you're like, oh yeah.
It sounds like a thing that already exists, which is why it's like, did you know that hobnobs were like really new? They're only like 15 years old or something like that. Everyone assumed that hobnobs have been around since for hundreds of years. They were like, hobnobs, like surely grandmothers used to make them themselves. No, it's like because it just sounds.
They have an old sounding name.
Yeah.
Interesting fact.
Yeah. All right, there we go. Tim, what's going on with you? You're still going to be Flow Show?
Yeah, I do the flow thing. I just
Okay.
did a commercial with Nike. I'm going to be working on a movie in the new year.
Movie?
Do that. Yeah, some
Okay.
new Frankenstein thing.
Are you doing like action in the movie? Or
Yeah,
you
like
acting?
a chase sequence.
Okay.
But I don't think I can actually. I've signed some
like stuntman
NDAs.
work?
Yeah, like
Awesome.
stuntman work. It's cool. It's something. I'm not doubling anyone, so I don't mind going down that route. I'm actually kind of a character that's chasing the main guys in the thing. So I'm a Tumblr circus guy chasing, but
Okay.
that's it. Yeah.
And you're doing more yoga? Are we going to get you in the ayahuasca is in your cards?
I still need to do ayahuasca. A lot of things pushing me in that direction, and I just haven't. I don't know. I got projects I want to work on. I just want to promote fruit and vegetables to kids. That's the aim. Next year, that is the goal.
Fruit and vegetable to kids.
That's it.
All right, I like it, man.
Simplify it.
Nature's candy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's there. It's in
That's
its own
it.
wrapper.
It's so fruit is incredible, and people just shun it like it's nothing. I don't get it.
Tangerines, like I sometimes look at tangerines and be like, that's dope. You don't need a wrapper.
Yeah, exactly.
It lasts for ages.
And bananas and everything. Like,
Fruit and veg get a bad rap, you're right. People just dismiss them. It's almost like racism was maybe 50, 100 years ago. People are like, yeah, whatever. I mean, it really is.
It is.
It's discrimination. I know.
it's pretty bad.
Free the fruit.
You need
Yeah.
I need to think about that too. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you're listening to us on iTunes, you can see all of our faces on YouTube channel London Real. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. Daz, what's that?
I was just
You just
excited.
making sounds? Yeah.
Get it.
Daz, thanks for coming. I know you had deadlines and everything, and thanks for coming over here.
Thank you for
And
having me.
take this the right way. I'm glad you didn't perform.
I'll try and take that in the best way it was intended.
Yeah, on YouTube you see in a related link. You can watch it perform anyway.
I mean,
There you go.
to the right of this on YouTube, you will see so many choices of performance. So watch him perform, but this is like inside his head. So thanks so much. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man.
Cool, man. It's about the journey, as we say. Peace to you guys. Thanks.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste. Dope. All right, guys. Bye. This week on London Real, I have a one-to-one chat with extreme entrepreneur Peter Sage.
Because most people have a death grip on how they think reality should look like, and all stress comes from life not fitting your pictures.
When you're not forcing something and you're actually enjoying everything that you do, you attract all of these people and all these energy and all these opportunities.
100%. I'm no longer sitting on the shore waiting for my ship to come in. That's Disneyland thinking. That's never going to happen.
People love to hear the victim story. That's all the news is.
If I understand other people rather than project my own model of the world onto them, then I'll have a little more tolerance in my life.
I'm curious what you think of psychedelics.
A ship in a harbor is a safe ship, but that's not what ships are built for.
That's one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, it makes
And
it
I do
real.
this every week. On Sunday, London Real presents Peter Sage, extreme entrepreneur.
That's it. Stress is a byproduct of you thinking that life should look a different way to where it is right now.